Our story is about Damien Harkins. He was once a talented warrior with a bright future, but everything changed when an archer appeared and turned him into a death knight. After being controlled by dark magic, he killed his own family and helped destroy an entire kingdom. Although Damien escaped at the last minute, it was too late to fix his mistakes. Fortunately, fate gave him another chance to return to the past. Damien is determined to protect those he once lost and destroy the dark sorcerers who turned his life into a nightmare. This time he will fight not for glory, but for love, salvation, and the future of his family. The story begins with the image of a girl with wide, bright blue eyes full of horror, reflecting utter fear amidst chaos and ruin. Hideous creatures scream their mouths agape, revealing disgusting teeth. In a moment, they frantically chase and kill humans amid the chaos. A beam of light bursts from the center, flinging dust and rubble into the air. At that moment, iOS's figure appears faintly alongside the knight. His eyes flash with a murderous gleam like a ruthless tyrant. Right then, iOS furiously slashes his sword repeatedly at the enemy. The knight immediately uses his sword to block the attacks. Then a huge explosion sounds and the undead fall one after another. From above, a beam of light suddenly strikes the ground. iOS glares at the knight while hissing in disbelief. The Empire's strongest swordsman truly deserves the title Hell Knight. At this moment, the image of the knight becomes clear amidst the battle's ruins, accompanied by iOS's firm voice, Death Knight. Meanwhile, the ground suddenly shakes in waves. The knight suddenly clutches his head, staggering uncontrollably. The knight's eyes suddenly blaze bright. A groan comes from his mouth. We see the knight's wide eyes filled with complicated emotions. The knight's whole body trembles with rapid breathing. At that moment, the flag suddenly bursts into flames. Dogo smirks with delight. Good, very good. Finally, I have crushed this cursed empire with my own hands. He lifts his head, watching the fire engulf the village. The old saying goes, good things come to those who wait. From above, Doego's thunderous voice sounds like a hymn for the final bloody moment. What I started 1,000 years ago has succeeded. Do you know how happy I am? He throws his head back and laughs loudly. His laughter echoes through the pitch-black sky. At the same time, Emperor Lai shouts in fury, how dare you massacre my people? He keeps roaring, you rotten demon. Isn't hell enough for you? Contrary to Emperor Lai, Doego mocks sweetly. Is this supposed to be a curse? He stands up, his voice suddenly cold to the bone. Have you finished talking? Now I will begin my coronation! The angry voice from Emperor Lai shouts, what nonsense are you talking about? You sitting on the throne? Doego just chuckles softly. I'm the first in history to rule the whole continent. If you want to call me emperor, that would be too awkward. Emperor Lai below can only grit his teeth to hold back. At the same time, a shadow flickers on the ground. He looks up at the crowd with satisfaction. Well done, my demon lords and death knight. Then Doego decisively orders, bring me the royal crown. At that moment, Emperor Lai's crown glows with a dazzling light. Instantly, the knight respectfully presents the precious crown. Doego pauses his gaze, falling on the black-armored figure approaching. My most loyal knight, you played the greatest role in raising me to this throne. How should I reward such devoted service? We only see the knight looking up at Doego. His eyes flash with malice. Under the knight's cold demeanor, Doego seems somewhat surprised. Doego's smile suddenly fades. The foolish question, are you really my slave? Serving me is the greatest reward. At that moment, the knight lightly tosses the crown into the air. Doego reflexively looks up to follow it. Suddenly, the crown explodes into hundreds of pieces. The minions immediately scream in rage. Their eyes blaze red like demons manifesting. At the same time, Doego swung both hands forward. He used all his strength to create a shield. On this side, the minions rushed forward one after another to protect their master. Meanwhile, the knight stood alone in the battlefield. First, Doego paused, eyes filled with doubt as he looked at the wound. What are you doing? I never gave you permission. His mind began to panic. I have equipped defenses, so how could he hurt me? Turning back to the knight, a whisper sounded like it came from the underworld. Finally, the voice roared, each word cutting through space like a crack. I can move according to my will now. Hearing this, Doego started to panic. What did you say? I have erased all your will. The knight glanced at him. It may seem that way, but in truth I never completely disappeared. The knight spoke each word carefully trapped inside this body. I have observed everything. He whispered almost in disbelief. Huh, Doego? Gritting his teeth, trying to suppress his rage. Truly, you are my greatest masterpiece. For your achievements, I will allow you some anger, but only this once. Until I find a way to control you again. Instantly, the minions all charged to attack the knight. On this side, the knight just calmly watched them. Meanwhile, Dogo's face showed clear tension. Turning back to the knight, he only saw a sharp sword pointed straight at him. Doego couldn't help but feel suspicious. My demon lords were defeated with just one strike. He immediately raised his hands toward the sky. Then a strange light radiated around Doego. Behind the zombies began to rise one after another. Soon after, they frantically rushed toward the knight. The zombies opened their mouths wide as if wanting to devour the knight alive. At the same time, the knight stood perfectly still. From the knight's mouth came a cold sound. "Stop!" Only seeing the knight's arm decisively stretched out. The knight shouted, "Tie their ears! Surrender, all of you!" At the knight's voice, the zombies stopped. Immediately, their eyes were burned. After a moment, the zombies exploded into hundreds of pieces. Doego gritted his teeth. This can't be happening. He kept denying that he had created a monster equal to a god. Finally, Doego decided to compromise. "I understand you must be very angry." "I understand. Me too." Suddenly, a crazy idea sprang up in his mind. "Don't think you've won. Even if this body is destroyed, my soul will transfer into another body and control you again." However, the knight suddenly gripped his sword tightly. "All these years trapped inside, I've thought of nothing but how to kill you," he replied anxiously. "What then?" The knight swung his sword fiercely backward and a roar sounded. "To kill you, I created a technique that can cut through souls." Doego instinctively used himself. There can't be such a technique. "Too dangerous, I have to dodge quickly." At that moment, his face suddenly stiffened. From the other side, the knight launched a deadly slash. After a while, Doego woke up from the nightmare. He groped all over his body and then laughed. "That's right, there is no such technique." At that moment, a black stream shot down straight into Doego's mouth. His whole body was lifted into the air, then Doego disappeared into the swirling chaos of earth and sky. His eyes widened, reflecting terror. Moments later, the space exploded. Only Doego's head fell and rolled on the ground. At that moment, a figure silently approached the knight. Looking up coldly, "Go to hell." The knight's foot decisively crushed his corpse. On this side, Emperor Lai trembled with fear. He widened his eyes in surprise. "What is happening?" Suddenly, the knight collapsed to the ground. From his mouth came a weak voice. "Finally, it's over. Let me do one last thing." The knight lifted his sword strongly and stabbed it into the ground. The knight's eyes suddenly lit up. "I must apologize to them even if I have to meet them in the afterlife." At that moment, the scene of himself slaughtering people vividly appeared. It was when the knight mercilessly killed an entire family. The knight silently resolved, "I need to say sorry to my family." Immediately, blood splattered everywhere. The knight collapsed before the sharp sword. In his subconscious, he suddenly heard Ihan Damien's voice. This voice. Louis Louis MM appeared. "Damien, why are you sleeping here?" The knight couldn't believe the figure before his eyes. "Thank God I can see her before the hellish fate, right?" He stammered out, "Why do you look so young?" She softly laughed. "Oh, suddenly you're so smooth talking. Are you trying to win me over before Dad scolds you?" Louis gently stepped closer. "It's okay now. Just trust your big sister and it will rain. Better go inside quickly." He looked bewildered as her figure gradually faded away. Damien's eyes grew empty. "I'm sure I destroyed the mansion with my own hands." He looked confused at his two hands. "Don't tell me this is a dream, Damien." He kept questioning himself, or maybe those things were just dreams too. At that moment, his gaze stopped at a branch. Damien unconsciously picked it up. "I'll find out soon enough." He pointed it at the rock. The feeling was so real. After a moment, Damien swung it forcefully forward. Instantly, the branch struck the rock hard. The rock showed no cracks, unlike the branch. His eyes widened as if he couldn't believe it. His whole body froze in place. He smiled weakly. "That's crazy." Just then, the rock suddenly cracked. Then it shattered into hundreds and thousands of pieces. His whole body trembled along with a strange laugh. Damien was seen holding his face, laughing loudly. After a while, he bent over, clutching his stomach, laughing uncontrollably. Damien's hand clenched the grass tightly on the ground. He looked up at the sky. Raindrops fell continuously. Damien trembled, clutching his shirt. He sobbed in bursts. The cold raindrops made Damien realize this was not a dream. He was so moved he broke down, crying, "I really have gone back to the past." Damien had a certain talent. At that moment, Hassan shouted, "Tie him up." "You're crazy." He looked like he might explode with rage, causing chaos in the tavern and getting thrown out. "How much more disgrace must our family honor endure? You have the talent to smear your family's honor to the dirt." Meanwhile, Aben suddenly flung open the door. "Brother, why did you hit the young master of Lion Bloom?" He shouted angrily. "It's because of you that she—" At the same time, a carriage slowly passed over the bridge. Aben's voice, still echoed in Damien's ears, just dragged to that lowly guy. Words like talent to trample the family's future still deeply imprinted in his mind. Merida, miserable, gripped the edge of her skirt tightly. Damien, why did you use the ancestral land as collateral for a loan? Why also you have the talent to have your entire family's assets seized too? And so because of that talent. At that moment, Hassan roared angrily, "Get lost." He just turned and left before Hassan's fury. Meanwhile, Damien sat irritably in his room. Louis suddenly called out loudly, "Damien." She hesitated as she approached him. "At least take this money." Louis smiled brightly. "You have to live happily." At this moment, Damien's mind unconsciously called sister. He tried to suppress his emotion even though I destroyed your life. Damien's hand trembled as he took the money pouch from her. Then he decisively snatched it away from Louis. Damien immediately rushed out of the room. That instant, he ran out of the house with all his strength, as if fleeing from his whole family. That was the first time Damien understood what guilt and shame were. Back to reality, the sunset light gently covered the grass. Damien knelt on the ground. His gaze gradually emptied. How could I have gone back to the past? Thinking of this, he couldn't believe the truth before his eyes. It's true I once wanted to apologize to my family, but did I really go back to the past? At the same time, the sun gradually appeared behind thick, dark clouds. A question suddenly flashed in Damien's mind. Could this be a blessing from the divine? He looked down at his hand, which was trembling uncontrollably. Damien subconsciously realized he was right. At this moment, even a basic move was too much for Toai Ba, a move that greatly amplified the force many times over. He only saw the hammer strike hard on the ground. The entire space vibrated as a result. At this moment, he clenched his palm tightly. Immediately afterward, Damien decisively swung his fist toward the enemy. As a result, he gained this move after killing the knight known as the Wall Breaker. Meanwhile, a voice rang out, pulling Damien from his memories. "Oh my God." Young Master Victor hurried over, his face pale. He felt a slight itch. He must be a servant of the family, but what was his name? Thinking of this, Damien unconsciously muttered, "Victor, you." He immediately looked up. "Yes, young master, what is it? Are you still here? Miss Lewis told you to go back, so why haven't you left yet?" After a moment, Victor appeared frightened. "The head of the family is in a battle right now." Damien immediately felt confused. "What should I do?" Victor's eyes widened in confusion, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. "Are you really asking that because you don't know?" Damien couldn't help but feel suspicious at Victor's question. Suddenly, a terrified scream echoed from the Earl Hason's territory. "You damn bastard!" He angrily swung his sword hard toward Damien's face. Just as the blade was about to strike, Damien quickly dodged. Hason turned to look at him with fiery eyes. His father roared furiously. "Are you really crazy, causing chaos in the tavern and getting kicked out, Marilda?" Marilda rushed over and grabbed Hason's arm tightly. "Brother, calm down!" Louis beside him quickly held him back too. "Father, please stop!" Hason screamed in a hoarse voice. "How much more disgrace must our family suffer for you to be satisfied?" He struggled hard while shouting, "Everyone let go! I said let go! Today I'm going to smash his head right here!" Damien felt itchy right there. So this is the moment I've returned to. At the same time, Marilda pleaded, "No, do you really intend to kill Damien?" Louis also jumped in to advise, "Father, please think carefully, use your reason." His gaze unconsciously fell on them. When was the last time I was scolded by my father? Mother and sister only saw his whole body trembling. I remember this feeling so well. Louis looked at him worriedly. At that moment, he sheathed his sword and lowered his voice. "And what else do you intend to say? If you still have a mouth, then speak." He didn't hesitate and quickly replied, "Nothing, sir." Hason nodded as if he had predicted this. "Of course not." "Impossible." He was stunned looking back at Damien. His eyes widened as if he couldn't believe what he heard. "What?" No words at all. Hason immediately questioned, "Impossible. You useless brat always make excuses to defend yourself, and now you say nothing." He stood still, posture serious. His voice choked but resolute. "I admit it, but hearing it from you still hurts." Then Damien lowered his head, looking at him with regretful eyes. "I have sullied the honor of the Earl Hason's territory. It's my fault, all because of my mistakes. I have nothing left to excuse." Hearing this, he sighed helplessly. "You still have a slick tongue. Do you think I'll let this go?" Suddenly, Damien put his hand on his chest and bowed deeply. "I will atone for my mistakes." Hason was astonished. "What did you say?" Repeating firmly, "I will fix what I have caused." Then Damien quickly walked out the main door. He didn't forget to add. Then Damien turned back with a bright smile. "I will accept the deserved punishment when I return." Hearing this, Hason, Marilda, and Louis were almost stunned speechless. He suddenly felt uneasy. Was it because he was beaten too much that day that his mind was affected? Scene shifts to the commercial city of Landwork. Victor shouted loudly, announcing, "Our young master has arrived." He turned back with an apologetic look. "Young master, do you really want to go in?" Damien appeared with a serious look. "Rumor has it there's a powerful force behind them. I'm afraid something bad will happen." He decisively walked away. "If you're scared, go back first." Victor was startled and hurried after him. "What? No way. You're still going. Do you think I'd run away? Of course it would be better if we escaped together." Damien smiled slightly. "Don't worry if I sincerely apologize to the boss. What could possibly happen? I will seriously make amends." "Yes," Victor widened his eyes, looking at him. "Yes, if everything goes smoothly, that's good." Then he walked alone into the tiger's den. Damien looked up at the cross. "I don't know why I came back to the past, but if the gods are giving me a second chance." He silently made a firm decision in his heart, then I can't hurt them again. Talent trampling on the family's future. As soon as they saw Damien, the guards immediately became alert. An angry shout came from the long-haired man. "Hey, noble brat, why are you back here?" The man beside him waved his knife threateningly. "Hey, we warned you already, don't show your face here a second time." Damien paused. His eyes quickly scanned the two in front of him. "It's been so long I don't remember clearly, but strangely they look familiar." Then Damien smiled friendly. "I want to apologize to the boss for what I caused last time." Hearing that, the two guards hesitated. One of them suspiciously said, suddenly showing up to apologize, "This guy's ridiculous. I'll tell the big boss to help you." The other tried to hold back laughter, pretending to be dignified because he's noble, but it was unexpected. Then the group kept mocking Damien. Thought he was just the eldest thug of a broken family, but turns out he knows more than I thought. At this moment, the long-haired man said sarcastically, "Hey, I heard his sister is a rare beauty." The man beside him became curious. Really? Still a good catch in that family, huh? He swung his hand and slapped Damien's face. "Hey, young master, suddenly I want to accept that apology." The man licked his knife hard. "If you introduce your beautiful sister to me, I'll forgive you." Hearing that, the long-haired man laughed joyfully. "Come on, he's about to cry right now at this very moment." Damien suddenly spoke. "Well, then that's difficult." He slowly spun the knife in his hand. "I thought I could just apologize and go back, but it seems I overestimated myself." The man was frightened. This bastard has gone mad. "Just put it away!" He shouted angrily. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Instantly, Damien swung the knife hard. The man's hand dropped to the ground. He looked down confused. Then he screamed loudly, "You!" Damien lightly waved the knife. "Want to see? Then I'll show you clearly." Then Damien roared, "I'll show you what the eldest thug of the Viscount Hassan's territory really is." Victor unconsciously stepped back in a corner. The young master cried out in horror, "I thought you planned to make amends." Shouts echoed through the bustling city. The teenager immediately became curious. "Sounds like a fight, let's go check it out." One guy looked hesitant. "Forget it, you don't want to get involved." Victor silently prayed for the young master from behind. The long-haired man growled, pointing his sword straight at Damien bastard. "Do you know who we are?" Damien just clicked his tongue, not bothering to care. "I don't care who you are. Do whatever you want." He immediately raised his tattoo. "It looks ridiculous, but listen, no one messes with the Black Snake Gang and lives." Damien paused, frowning slightly. "That's right, I finally remember. That's the Black Snake, an organization currently expanding its influence in Landwork. And this is one of the taverns they're targeting." When he complained about the food from the heavens, Damien angrily pointed at this piece of paper. "This bill is really strange. I'm not paying." Then the man rushed forward and slapped him hard in the face. They then beat Damien relentlessly and mocked him in front of the crowd. Damien hurriedly begged, "Please, I will pay, don't hit me anymore." Returning to reality, his lips slightly curled up now that I think about it. I'm the one who should be apologizing, right? The long-haired man couldn't help but be suspicious. Why is he laughing like that? Then he gripped the sword hilt tightly and responded in a low voice, "Anyway, I won't hold back just because you're a noble. Get ready." Right after, the long-haired man wildly charged towards Damien. The sword struck hard in midair. Strands of hair fluttered lightly in the wind. At this moment, his whole body staggered as if about to fall. Just then, he kicked the long-haired man's leg hard. His face was seen lying parallel to the ground. Moments later, his whole body collapsed onto the ground. The long hair rubbed his aching nose. Meanwhile, Damien suddenly spoke up. The sound echoed to his ears. "Honestly, killing all of you right here still wouldn't be enough. I hold the long-haired man's leg tightly, but I will endure it for my family," he exclaimed in horror. "Wait, I haven't begged yet," the long-haired man shouted desperately. Moments later, the two of them writhed on the ground. At the same time, someone screamed in fear, "Who the hell is that guy?" Damien calmly observed the group. Is there more? The leader looked at him with narrowed eyes. Is he from another faction? Where are you from? Damien adjusted his tone. Not what you think. I just came here to apologize. But then realized he was actually the one who should accept the apology. I have to file a complaint to the owner here, so lead me quickly. He put on a displeased face, his tone clearly annoyed. I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. If you don't speak, we'll just beat you to pieces. Immediately after, the leader pointed at Damien and ordered, grab him. The group with fierce expressions rushed quickly toward him. Damien sighed silently. Here we go again. A close-up showed his tired face. Suddenly, a gust of wind whooshed through the air. In a flash, Damien with a sharp blade charged like a storm. Then he stopped in a clearing. The leader's face, eyes wide and mouth agape, reflected utter shock. Finally, a painful scene appeared, a man lying face down on the ground, shouting in despair. His hand turned back toward Damien. He wiped the scratch on his mouth lightly. Damn it, I'm out of breath just from that. Damien suddenly spoke. You want to continue? He shook his hand slightly. No, I'm sorry. If you spare us, then breathe. Instantly, he put all his effort into chasing the leader. Damien's hand tried to reach him. In another scene, inside a very lively tavern, the group suddenly turned their heads toward the door. From behind, the leader's familiar voice echoed, Wow, maybe I went too far. All he saw was a blade pressed to his neck. Damien immediately threw the leader aside. That's why you should listen while I'm still calm. His figure along with the knife appeared blurry. He saw Damien wiping blood that wasn't his own. At that moment, the group all fled. A terrified scream rang out, Mom, run fast! He casually walked inside. Now the blockers had fled. From upstairs, Anderson angrily shouted, What's all the noise? He barked, then his gaze fixed on Damien. Where are the guards? He stepped forward, neither hurried nor threatening. You must be the owner here. If you mean those guys outside, I already dealt with them. Hearing this, Anderson got confused. He immediately looked down where the leader lay collapsed, but couldn't help feeling suspicious. He defeated a member of the Black Serpent. Then he angrily growled, Who are you to cause such chaos in someone else's business place? He replied patiently, Damien Hagen. Anderson suspiciously asked Hagen, You mean the Viscount's territory? Damien suddenly lowered his voice to an oddly sincere tone amid the chaos. Yes, I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just simply want an apology from you. He stammered in disbelief. What did you say? The prices here are way too high, he said softly but clearly. I already complained, but his men beat me up and threw me out. Then Damien paused before continuing. And thanks to that guy, everyone thinks I'm a busybody who causes trouble. His expression immediately hardened. Because of that, my whole family and I lost a lot. Then Anderson, who had been acting indifferent, changed his expression. Lost, huh? You must be talking about honor, right? But you see, I think I'm too old to understand what you're saying. He dragged out his words, eyes narrowing mockingly. From what I know, that Viscount Hasten doesn't even have any honor left to lose. Hearing this, Damien's face changed. He looked up at Anderson. At that moment, Anderson pulled out a stick and loudly confronted the foolish noble. Do you really think? Anderson smirked disdainfully. That's saying that means I'll apologize, using cheap tricks and paying off that mess. Hearing this, Damien smiled bitterly. I understand. I'll forgive you if you apologize. He suddenly changed his tone. But if you want that, fine. As soon as he finished speaking, Damien lunged toward Anderson. He tightened his grip on the knife handle. You should pay the price too. Damien's eyes nearly lit up at what he said. At that moment, footsteps echoed rapidly. He immediately lost his usual focus. At this time, a mysterious person rushed in and struck Damien hard. Instinctively, he immediately sensed something was wrong. This aura is... In that instant, Damien collapsed to the ground. Anderson now showed respect. Lord Test arrived just in time, but below he slowly stood up. What a surprise. Damien looked up at Test. I didn't think you were the type for a place like this. He looked at him coldly. So tell me, why is a knight here? Facing the question, Test seemed a bit surprised. First knights walk the martial path their whole lives. Then they become official knights. Before that, they're trainee knights. And the lowest are rookies. They're ranked based on skill level. Official knights can use aura freely. They can cut a mountain in half with a single strike, slice through a fortress wall like paper. They are transcendent beings. At this, Anderson laughed gleefully. He began to brag. That's right, Test here is a trainee knight, almost the boss of the Black Snake Gang. You're definitely going to die. Hearing this, Damien briefly pondered. Finally, he guessed. So he's a trainee knight, huh? Damien smirked lightly. His cold eyes glanced at Test. That probably explains why I sensed that aura. Across from him, Test's eyes flashed red with surprise, mixed with worry, the creases in his brow tight. How could he sense it when I didn't reveal any aura at all? At that moment, Damien seemed to touch the essence of Test and softly said, "But I think I understand why someone like you works here now." Then he bluntly concluded, probably because he got kicked out as a trainee knight for not being skilled enough to become an official knight. At the same time, Anderson turned to Test and asked respectfully, "How much did you spend to handle him?" The atmosphere suddenly cooled. Test didn't answer immediately, then gritted his teeth. "I'll talk about that later right away." Test leapt high into the air. He swung his sword forcefully backward, roaring, "I'll tear your mouth apart." Damien remained surprisingly calm, even though the sharp blade was just a hair's breadth from his face. At the same time, Test slammed the sword tip into the stone floor, creating a deep, explosive sound. His eyes blazed with a cold blue light. He quickly sensed the shifting air around him. As a trainee knight, he's pretty good. His movements are reckless, but his attacks are sharp. Test said nothing, just tightened his grip on the knife in his hand. An energy surged around the blade like a demonic aura about to explode. In a moment, he lunged forward and swung hard. Damien barely managed to dodge by spinning. He muttered to himself that he was reaching his limit. He couldn't push this body any further. He had to focus on building up his strength first. "You try, Test said each word a challenge to see if you can dodge this move." As soon as the words ended, he raised his sword high. Damien's eyes immediately narrowed tightly. In that instant, the whole space seemed suffocating. Test pointed the tip of his sword straight at him. That was the secret technique. Damien thought to himself, then I have to respond with an equally skilled technique. Sounds from memories suddenly echoed in his ears. Dogo, what kind of freak is that? Back then, he had sneered coldly, "If I kill all humanity, there will be no joy left in this world." The legendary killer. The owner of the Death Sword's fate, the Shadow Assassin. Immediately after Test decisively turned around. So he pointed the tip of his sword directly at Damien and threatened, "Shut up and get out of here if you don't want to die." However, Damien just stood still. A crazy smile appeared on Test's face. "So you still don't understand? Looks like I'll have to kill one more person." His voice was steady but full of murderous intent. "If you want to die, I'll show you my secret technique clearly." Test continued in a cold tone. "Most of the human body is water. Once you reach this level," as soon as he finished speaking, he decisively slashed and cut Damien in half. Test coldly looked back at Damien. "You can cut through a human being even with a wooden sword like this," he hissed. His voice was as cold as the winter wind. "You should have run when I gave you the chance." At that moment, Test's face suddenly changed instantly. Damien's body gradually recovered. He froze in front of the horrifying scene. "But I was cut in half. How is that possible?" Test's voice was angry and confused with every word. "Don't tell me you're immortal." At that moment, he seemed swallowed whole by Damien's eyes. Damien just lightly swung his hand. Test's whole body was cut in two. He cried out in horror while his eyes went wide. His mouth kept muttering, "You used my secret technique again," returning to reality. Test only managed to shout no, then his whole body collapsed to the ground. Damien coldly glanced over the body before him. Always like this. His enemies never knew what killed them. After becoming a death technician, he gained an incredible ability. Then Damien turned to look at the blade. It was the ability to absorb the skills and strength of his enemies and make them his own. Immediately after, he turned toward Anderson. Anderson immediately trembled. Reflexively, he stepped back. After a moment, his face was covered with cold sweat. "Sir Anderson, I sincerely apologize for mocking you. Great Lord Hassan." He fearfully glanced at the towering pile of gold. "The so-called compensation for damages, is this enough to forgive my mistake?" Damien withdrew his intimidating demeanor. "I just wanted him to apologize. Guess I'll have to take this compensation then." He pretended to be displeased. "Not quite enough, but I guess it's acceptable." At that moment, Damien turned his head toward the door. "What are you doing?" "Hurry out here and clean up Victor." Victor quickly poked his head out. "Yes, young master." Victor stuffed gold into his pocket while glancing at Damien. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but wonder, since when did he learn swordsmanship? Soon after, the group all bowed their heads, wishing the Lord a safe journey. Victor carried the heavy gold on his back, his eyes sparkling. "I've never seen this much money in my life." Behind him, Anderson gritted his teeth. "I'll find a way to get that money back from you bastards. I'll talk to the boss of Black Mask." And at that moment, Damien's voice rose again. "Oh, right. Immediately after a slash quickly grazed his ear. He acted indifferent. Money makes me forget even the punishment. Anderson tightly hugged him and shouted, "This is my territory." Damien reminded him, "Tell Black Serpent if he dares touch a single hair of my family, I won't forgive him." Anderson tried to hold back tears. "Bastard, I won't let this go." Then Damien and Victor left together to go home. As for him, someone who had lived in the shadows of the past, he silently thought, "I know very well this won't erase my past sins." Damien silently made a vow. "But in this new life, I won't disappoint my family anymore." Damien silently made a vow, "But in this new life, I will not let my family down again." Finally, he urged, "Let us go home, Victor." You hurriedly followed, "Yes, young master." The sky gradually shifted to a light orange hue. Scene changes to Luan Bloom's territory. Inside, Irwin kept admiring himself in the mirror. "Hey, have you ever heard this before? Love always brings pain." The man looked annoyed. "What nonsense are you babbling with that serious face?" "Are you going to battle?" He immediately turned around. "No, sir." Then Irwin smirked mockingly. "I'm going to find love." Cut to the Viscount Hagen's mansion. At this moment, Damien yawned repeatedly. "It's been a while since I had such a good sleep." Hearing that, Victor complained enviously. "Honestly, I was so worried about yesterday's stuff I couldn't sleep at all. Flying hands and flying feet. Unlike you, he appeared very calm." "Isn't everything fine now?" Damien muttered softly, then smirked. "It's true things went a bit beyond the original plan, but we got a pretty big reward." A thought suddenly flashed in his mind. More importantly, the rumors will spread fast. Someone picked a fight with Viscount Hassan's eldest son and got crushed when it happened. No one will look down on our family anymore. Thinking this, he shrugged with satisfaction. Not only that, the public's view of the useless son of the Viscount will change a bit as well. Victor twitched eyes glued to every action of Damien. Not sure before, but now he's realized what he's capable of. But then he hesitated and said, "Everything sounds fine, but what worries me is the Black family." Not only did he attack their people, but he also targeted some apprentice knights they hired. Hearing this, Damien turned back to reassure Victor no matter how brave they are, they wouldn't dare touch nobility. And even if they dared, I would stop them, don't worry. He nodded as if all worries were erased. "Yes, actually, even I think your swordsmanship isn't ordinary." A moment of silence passed, then Victor leaned forward curiously. "By the way, young master, since when did you know how to use a sword?" Surprised by the question, he quickly avoided eye contact. "Oh, that I just practice casually in my free time." Right then, Hassan suddenly shouted Damien's name from the Great Hall. He rushed toward him like a storm. Hassan appeared with eyes shining brightly. He roared a thunderous shout. "Kid, where were you all day yesterday, son?" Hassan panicked, grabbing Damien. "Don't tell me you caused trouble again." Marilda behind hurriedly tried to stop him, but Damien spoke to reassure, turning toward him. "Don't worry, father, as I said, I've taken care of everything I caused." Victor showed him right away. He dropped a bag of gold on the ground. Hassan looked around suspiciously. "Oh, my money." Victor continued pulling out a piece of paper. "Is this a land contract?" Damien stood straight, looking pleased. "I went to the tavern where I was kicked out to clear up the misunderstanding and found out the calculations were wrong. The tavern owner gave me this compensation as an apology." Marilda was so happy she collapsed. "With this, we can pay the overdue salaries." Hearing this, he was suspicious. "Is this real? How can I trust you?" He nodded to confirm, "Of course, sir." She also chimed in for Damien Honey. "It must be true, otherwise, how could the boy have this amount of money?" Seeing Hassan still doubtful, he looked at Victor. "If father doesn't believe me, ask Victor. He went with me." Damien silently winked at Victor for confirmation. "I'm telling the truth, right?" Victor hesitated briefly, but nodded, "Yes, sir." Satisfied, he turned around. "So, father, do you believe me now?" He sighed in relief. Marilda couldn't hide her joy. "So it's true, honey." A smile briefly crossed her heavily wrinkled face, proud of her son. Damien and Victor silently observed the young master. "You've formed a habit of lying, haven't you?" The scene stopped at a large tree. It shone under the blazing sun on a narrow cliffside path. Damien's figure was running hard across each mountain ridge. After a while, he leaned against the tree, panting heavily. His face was speckled with sweat, and his breathing gradually calmed down. "Even without moving much, I'm already out of breath. My body is too sluggish and weak. I have to do so many things but can't do anything in this condition." Right after that, Dui Mien slipped his hand into his pants pocket, and when he pulled out a small, shimmering glass vial, it fit perfectly in his hand. His eyes lit up, thanking the heavens that he still managed to get this. Just a few hours ago, Damien quietly asked Anderson, "What is this?" He immediately replied, "That is a type of medicine developed by the Alchemy Academy to enhance physical strength and abilities." Hearing that, he turned his gaze to Anderson and the Alchemy Academy. Without hesitation, he confirmed it was true. They are an alchemist group specializing in pharmaceutical concoctions. Hearing this, a memory quickly flashed through me. I remember now their medicine was once traded at a price equal to precious gems. Thinking that Dewey Mien couldn't hide his excitement, I'm really lucky. Back to reality, he didn't hesitate and downed the entire vial in one gulp. As soon as he finished drinking, Damien let out a sour ugh. At this moment, his whole body was enveloped by a powerful energy. A slight smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth. This stuff is strong. Damien clenched his fists. If I want to get stronger quickly, I have to build my physical strength first. Suddenly, he had a bold idea. I have to return to my previous level. Doego appeared briefly. At that moment, Dewey Mien's unconscious mind surfaced some memories from a few years later. That damn cursed creature will appear in this world. He gritted his teeth. Before that happens, I must have the power to kill him. Right after, Damien stared off into the distance. After a moment, Damien exhaled deeply and instantly dashed forward. This time I will definitely kill you, Doego. Scene shifts to a building enveloped by darkness. The place called Landwork, the base of the black serpent Syrinx. Eating while sneering contemptuously, he said he's useless now. He casually looked up at Test, who was gasping weakly on the ground. He's also the strongest guy we hired, how embarrassing. A subordinate quietly turned to us and asked, what should we do with Test? Boss, should we heal him? Yeah, Cedric sitting there lifted his chin, no dump him. He is the leader of the black serpent, Cedric Walker. The one who asked hesitated but dared not argue. Is that okay? He replied calmly. Yeah, just dump him somewhere. Saying that, Syrinx coldly walked away. He's no longer useful. If you have enough money, you can buy anyone. Things have come to this. At this moment, Test tried his best to push himself up. Seeing that he turned back with a cheerful attitude, Test still has the strength to get up. Syrinx immediately changed his expression. How about this? You will be treated. Maybe I'll hire you again. Only saw Test clench the sword hilt tightly. He angrily charged forward while cursing, die, you bastard. Suddenly, Test's body couldn't move. At this moment, his ankles were held tight by an invisible force. Right after, his whole body was wrapped by it. He struggled what a black mage stepped in cloaked head to toe. His voice was low, like dragging across stone the leader of the black serpent. Could he be the first target in our contract? Syrinx replied quickly, without thinking, of course. Let's see what you can do. Meanwhile, Test kept struggling. Bastard, let me go now. At that moment, the man muttered as if chanting a spell. Instantly, his whole body was tightly wrapped in dark energy. Test looked horrified at the creature surrounding him. What the hell is this? After a moment, it opened its mouth wide, revealing disgusting teeth. Test's face turned pale. He begged desperately, spare me. At the same time, the creature lunged at Test. They bit and tore at his body. After a while, the last remaining leg of Test fell to the ground. Syrinx covered his nose with his hands, so disgusting. The black mage quietly approached and asked, satisfied now. He nodded and reminded, yeah, but next time clean it up better, you slob, laughing. Got it, so what's the next contract? Syrinx thought for a moment and then spoke, that's why I called you. Someone has been influencing my organization. But since he's a noble, dealing with him directly will be a bit tricky. His expression immediately changed. His voice hissed coldly, just make him suffer in a different way. The more pain you cause him, the more money you get. Finally, Syrinx stuffed a bag of money into the dark sorcerer's hand. This is your advance payment. The man quickly took it. Thank you, sir. The dark sorcerer smirked. Leave it to me. Meanwhile, Damien kept gasping for breath. Sweat dotted his face. He just saw Damien pushing the weights up and down with all his might. After a while, he slammed the weight down on the ground. Damien, satisfied, squeezed his muscles tightly. The supplement really works well. Over the past few days, my endurance has increased significantly. He turned around to grab his water bottle, but something felt strange. Damien looked up at the sky. Nothing has happened in the past few days. I thought the black serpent would come looking for me. Just then, a rustling sound came from beside him. He turned around cautiously, just as I thought. Immediately after, Damien swung his hand toward the source of the sound, those damn black serpents. He angrily squeezed the opponent's neck. Damien's expression suddenly shifted from rage to shock. You, he unexpectedly called Aben's name. The boy's face went pale in front of his brother. After a moment, Aben fell heavily to the ground. He adjusted his breathing with his hands, eyes fixed here, Mien, during the time you weren't here. I've gotten a lot stronger, haven't I? I thought you were going to break my neck. Hearing this, the terrifying scene from before flashed through his mind again. Damien suddenly froze. He didn't respond immediately. Then Damien reached out toward Aben. I didn't mean it. He apologized. Before his hand, Aben pressed his lips tightly. Aben coldly turned his face away. I didn't come here to hear your apology. He adjusted his glasses. Father told me that you were taken by the bartender. Sorry, but I heard there was a fight there and many people got hurt. Aben's gaze tried to pierce Damien's heart. There's no way you did that. Are you still planning to lie to the family now? Not bothered by his suspicion, he just smiled. It's not true. I did it. Hearing this, Aben nearly roared, you don't even know how to fight. You hired someone. Damien shook his head in denial. I did it myself. He immediately shouted, don't lie. You can fool others, but you can't fool me. Then Aben, burning with anger, pointed at him. Anyway, don't do anything that harms our family's reputation again. Do you know the whole family had to clean up the mess you caused? At this moment, Damien suddenly placed his hand on Aben's head. He happily rubbed Aben's head. That's right. You've always been so meticulous and always wished the best for our family. Below, Aben struggled hard to pull away. Look what you're doing. Why are your hands so stiff? Damien just laughed and bent down with a faint smile. Don't worry. There won't be any more trouble now. Suddenly, Victor called out loudly, young masters. He hurriedly ran over on all fours, bad news. Then Victor shouted at the top of his lungs, bad news. At this moment, hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. Damien quickly flung open the front door. His face showed serious concern. Seeing him hasten was surprised. Damien, you look different. Arrowy calmly set a teacup on the table. You've arrived. He smiled politely, but with a subtle provocation behind it. I just told the Count about what happened at the banquet hall last time. Sorry for the sudden arrival. I couldn't do much because my father already found out about it. Hearing this, he furrowed his brows, cursing silently, oh damn. Though he couldn't remember clearly, it seemed like he had done something wrong to him. After a moment, he smirked suggestively. You remember clearly what happened too, right? In that moment, all the surrounding sounds gradually faded away, leaving only the growl coming from him. What did you say, Eric? Immediately waving his hand to deny I didn't mean to say that. Sorry if I accidentally offended you. Hearing this, Damien seemed displeased. What? Didn't mean to say that he still shouted angrily. Not only did you insult me, but you also insulted my sister's honor. Didn't mean to say that still he firmly denied you're a little drunk. I didn't say anything at all. Later, Eric approached and whispered into Damien's ear, what? He casually teased you, so what if I did? What if I really said that, you idiot? Thinking of this, Damien couldn't help but feel regret I shouldn't have fallen into his trap of provocation. Immediately after, he lost patience and rushed forward to punch him straight in the face. Eric's whole body immediately fell backward. Meanwhile, the corner of his mouth suddenly curled up as if he had anticipated it. Back to reality. Damien clenched his fists tightly. It's already strange that a man about to become a knight got beaten by me. That's what he wants. He suppressed his anger and turned to question Eugene. So what should we do now? He chuckled softly. It sounds a bit embarrassing, but I have always admired Miss Lewis. But Hazan on the opposite side looked confused. What do you mean? He suddenly changed tone. Please accept it right now. Eugene smirked mockingly for the marriage between me and Lewis. Hearing this, the family of four was almost stunned silent. Damien frowned at him. He's doing that again. In his past life, he did the same, taking advantage of my family's instability to benefit himself. Eric continued to persuade, if we do this, it will just be a small family matter. We can pretend nothing happened at all. At that moment, Hazan suddenly spoke up in opposition. We can't do that. Hearing this, his face immediately changed color. He continued to speak, trying to refuse Agui Louis already has a fiancé. So he lowered his head, his expression darkened. What about the humiliation I have to endure? Can Hazan's family really handle the wrath of our clan on their own? Right after Eugene stared at Hazan choose either pay the price for insulting me or marry Louis to me. The atmosphere froze. Hazan seemed to hold his breath. Leon Bloom is one of the most noble families in the kingdom, but I can't let that infamous pervert take my daughter. Just as things were spiraling out of control, Louis suddenly stepped in. Fine, I firmly agree, I accept. Hearing this, he lost his composure and sat up abruptly. Louis, what do you mean? Wait, we will find another way. Then Aben also interrupted. Exactly why should you compensate for his mistakes? Behind Damien could only bow his head and endure. Sister Louis stepped closer, her expression gentle but resolute. It's okay, I will go with Mr. Irwin. He is currently fighting fiercely for me. Again, does she have to do that? Eugene tilted his head slightly, smiling with satisfaction. That's right. He cheerfully sat up. Miss Louis, you are truly wise. Then Eugene swiftly approached her. I will soon send an official proposal to you. We will discuss more later. At that moment, Damien suddenly blocked Eugene's path. Seeing this, he slapped Damien's shoulder provocatively. Damien, do you have something to say? Or should I start calling you my new brother-in-law? Damien silently cursed this bastard. You already ruined my sister's life once, and now you plan to do it again. Afraid he would lose control, Louis hurriedly called Damien's name. Opposite Eric showed a confused expression. What are you talking about? I didn't hear anything. Before he could finish speaking, Damien swung his fist straight at him. Damien immediately felt regret. I shouldn't have taunted him for my sister and family, but at this moment, Eric fell to the ground. He roared angrily. No way that bastard can't get away with this. Right then, Damien excitedly ran down the hallway. A few hours earlier, the maid cheerfully announced, "Young Master Miss Lewis and Mr. Irwin's car has arrived." The butler next door was equally excited. It's been a long time since they've visited this place. At this moment, he couldn't contain his excitement and rushed forward. "Sister, how long has it been?" Sister Damien hurriedly looked back through the door crack. "We miss you so much." Suddenly, his face changed color. He only saw Irwin gripping her hair with one hand, his mouth constantly cursing. "You kept whining, so I brought you home, but what now?" He glared angrily at Louis. "You were sold to me from a rotten family, and you dare say you'd leave me." Immediately after Irwin ruthlessly pushed her down, "My love, Lewis." He promptly put on gloves, his gaze fixed on her fragile body. "I'll teach you a lesson so you'll never say that again." In that moment, Eugene swung his fist hard toward Louis. Outside, Damien could only watch Louis being mercilessly beaten, horror clearly on his face. Damien collapsed onto the cold ground. "It's my fault because of me Louis was married off." His whole body trembled violently, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. "Oh, William Bloom, that bastard, I will never forgive you." Back in reality, Damien shouted angrily, "You're out of luck, you bastard." Suddenly, his body fell flat to the ground, and the soldiers all advanced at once. "What was that?" They looked at the motionless Eugene in terror. Two young men immediately pointed swords at him. "Did you hit our young master?" Here, the indifferent Mian turned to them. "I'm Eric's bodyguard." At the same time, he laughed wildly. "You dared to use Owen's hand to strike me on the sword hilt not once, but twice." Over here, Hasten and Marilda were so terrified they couldn't move. At this moment, he coldly looked at Damien. "You must want to die, brother-in-law." One of his guards stepped forward, bowed slightly, and gently advised, "Please calm down, young masters. We will handle another culprit." He added, "That's right, since many people are watching." "No." However, Irwin suddenly clenched his teeth and ordered in a low voice, "Move aside." Hearing this, the guard hurriedly tried to stop him. Young masters, a scoundrel like this would immediately punch away his loyal man. Eugene angrily clenched his fists. I said, "Move aside." Facing his terrifying strength, Aben was involuntarily afraid. At this time, Eugene took heavy steps toward him. "Damien Hasten, I ask again, do you intend to settle this matter?" Louis pressed her lips together in fear. No, Eugene won't spare Damien. She disregarded herself and rushed forward. "Please stop." Just then, Damien unexpectedly stopped Louis, turning back with a gentle smile. "It's okay, Sister Louis, I'll handle it myself." Damien silently prayed, "Please don't sacrifice yourself for her." He looked at Agi without hesitation and issued a challenge. "Let's duel." He couldn't believe his ears. "What a duel?" Damien calmly nodded. "That's right, if you win this duel, I'll do as you wish. If I win, forget everything that happened." Even now, Louis and Irwin paused for a moment, then laughed as if hearing a ridiculous joke. "Why would I do that? Those conditions are not in my favor. As far as I remember, Miss Louis already agreed." Hearing this, he provoked, "Why are you twisting the truth? Are you afraid to lose to me?" Oh, tense, the corner of his mouth twitched. "That arrogant bastard, he dares to act like he can beat me. After catching him off guard once, I didn't know how to strike back, but this will do." Erui's face bulged with veins. "I'll use this to cripple you and take your sister away." He immediately pointed his sword directly at Damien. "Fine, I accept this challenge." Shortly after, the two gathered at the arena. Witnessing this, Marilda couldn't help but worry. "Darling, shouldn't we stop them?" Hasten held his head in frustration. Damien talked so confidently. He must have a plan. Otherwise, we can only hope for a miracle. Unlike him, Aben's face showed clear fear. "Father, you're wrong. Don't put your faith in miracles." William Bloom's eyes tracked every movement of his opponent. His swordsmanship must have reached the official swordsman level by now. How could Damien possibly defeat him? At that moment, Erui spoke to start the match. "Then let's begin. But how do you plan to fight me without a sword?" Damien immediately replied, "Don't worry." He just lightly raised his hand, holding something unexpected. "A silver fork, this is enough." Erui tilted his head in confusion. "A fork. What, over here?" Hazen silently cursed the fool while Marilda's face stiffened, son. Then Erui burst out laughing loudly, eyeing Damien, a smirk on his lips. Looks like you're scared out of your mind." Erui roared, "I won't go easy on you." As the sword came down, Damien quickly dodged. Erui furrowed his brows, clearly bewildered. He dodged it. Meanwhile, Erwin tightened his grip on the sword hilt. In an instant, the blade spun through the air, and before he knew it, Erui lunged at Damien with a wild sword strike. Damien only saw the blade slash forcefully down, sending dust flying everywhere. The ground beneath bore a deep cut, but Damien remained calm, gently brushing off the dust. The guards felt confused. How was he unharmed? "What's going on?" Agui gritted his teeth. In that brief moment, he dodged all the basic moves of the wild sword strike. Damien sneered with satisfaction. He's caught off guard. Thanks to my training these past days, I've perfectly analyzed the swordsmanship of the Leon Bloom clan. Suddenly, a memory sparked in Damien's mind before reverting. Michael Leon Bloom had fought his older brother. He looked down contemptuously at Eugene. "You're much weaker than him." Damien's gaze immediately shifted to Eugene. Eugene wildly swung his sword while roaring, "You dodged by luck, but let's see if you can dodge this one." Damien became alert. "It's aura, this one's harder to dodge." "What now?" At the same time, Eugene rushed quickly toward Damien. Disappearing and reappearing, Eugene suddenly appeared right before him. Damien's eyes sharpened with focus. In this situation, better use the holy sword technique. Then the two metals rubbed together, sparks blazing instantly. Abin looked up with astonishment. At that moment, Damien's ring easily blocked Erui's sword. He seemed unable to believe it. In that instant, Damien pushed hard against Erui's blade, swiftly knocking the sword from his hand with the secret move 10,000 flowing strikes. Terror flashed in Erui's eyes. Then Damien dashed toward him. Goodbye. The fork in Damien's hand stabbed into Erui's throat. Witnessing the horrific scene, Aben and Lewis's eyes widened in shock. Hasten and Marilda couldn't help but feel terrified. At that moment, a guard shouted in panic, the two young masters. Back to Damien, the fork in his hand just grazed Erwin's neck, who clutched his throat in terror and kept retreating. Damien pressed his lips tightly, trying to suppress his fury. "Even if I killed you 10,000 more times, it wouldn't make up for what you caused, but for the family's safety. I'll forgive you this once." He calmly approached him. "So the outcome is clear. No need for further discussion, right?" Damien's gaze swept over Eugene's defiant stance. "Now, as you promised." Without hesitation, he emphasized with a sharp look, "Get lost." The next morning, Damien's family gathered for breakfast. After a while, Damien put down the fork. "Thank you for the meal." He immediately stood up. "I'm off for morning training." No sooner had he spoken than he headed for the door. As Damien left, the group fell into a heavy silence. Marilda looked anxiously at Hasten. "Honey, aren't you going to ask Damien about what happened yesterday?" Aben's voice deepened with a mix of fear and admiration. "I still can't believe that my own brother, who was once weaker than weak, has suddenly become strong enough to easily defeat Erwin Leon Bloom like that, as if he turned into a completely different person overnight." She quietly whispered into Aben's ear, looking shocked. "You should ask about it." Then Hasten spoke with a low but commanding tone. "Stop, don't force the boy to answer, he will speak when he's ready." Hearing this, Marilda showed a displeased expression. "Honey." Lewis across from them spoke to calm. Aben calmed down, but in his heart he was uneasy. "I'm just as curious to death." A chill ran down Hasten's spine, but something told him not to ask the boy about it. "He's my son, but he's terrifying." Turning back to Damien, he used a sandbag to train endurance 10 kWs wrapped around his leg. He lightly dusted it off, then stood up. "It's time to go outside." But before he could start, a voice called from behind, "Here, Mien." He paused, then stepped forward. Sister Lewis sighed with relief. "Thank goodness you're still here." She suddenly hesitated about yesterday's matter. Hearing this, Damien suddenly snapped awake. "Right, I should apologize to her." Without thinking much, he immediately bowed. "I'm very sorry I acted rashly and put everyone in a difficult position." No, Damien closed his eyes tightly. He should have apologized to her yesterday, not now. "I promise it will never happen again." Louise quickly stopped him. "No, that's not it." She immediately supported him. Damien's eyes widened in surprise, and now Louise smiled gently. "Thank you." Her whole body trembled unconsciously. "You know, I was really scared then." "It's true I said I'd follow you early, but my heart didn't want to at all." Hearing this, he couldn't help but feel heartbroken. "So that's what you've always thought?" Lewis squeezed his shoulder tightly, but her voice choked as if about to cry. "You stood up for me?" At that moment, I felt both guilty and relieved. "So I wanted to tell you this." Lewis smiled softly like a morning breeze. "Thank you." Damien saw her smiling face and felt re-energized. Damien smiled back. "Actually, I should be the one saying that." He looked straight into Louis's eyes. Unspoken words now expressed, "Thank you for everything." Then Damien turned around. "It's nothing, I'm leaving now." He started to walk away, but Lewis's voice called out from behind, "Wait, Damien, take this." He looked confused at the item in her hand and suddenly guessed it was the item their father treasured most in the world, right? Lewis smiled brightly. "Dad told me to give this to you. Use it for training, Dad." He looked puzzled as he took the sword. "For me." She again spoke on behalf of Hasten. "Dad isn't good at expressing emotions, but he cares for you a lot. Dad also told me to tell you this." Then Louis pretended to be him and growled, "You come from a noble family, so never use the word meaning instead of sword again." Damien unconsciously felt he could see their father through her face. He immediately drew the sword. It gleamed like flowing water. Damien admired the craftsmanship. "Thank you, Dad." Meanwhile, Hasten suddenly sneezed hard, sniffing, "Who mentioned me?" At this time, the sky was gradually changing color. One guard couldn't help but yawn loudly. The other reminded him, "Stop yawning." At that moment, a wave of energy enveloped his legs, soon swallowing nearly the entire guard. Only the dark energy was seen consuming the guards entirely. Then the door suddenly opened by an invisible force. A dark sorcerer stepped out from the void. The man slowly approached the castle. In that moment, the energy slipped into every corner of the floor, illuminated by the oil lamp. Suddenly, an invisible shadow was deeply imprinted on the floor. At this time, Aben was still deeply asleep. On the other side, Hasten and Marilda were also peacefully sleeping. Meanwhile, the dark sorcerer silently approached Louis's room door, which immediately opened. Inside, she was sound asleep. The dark sorcerer quietly approached Louis's bed, licking his lips with a sneer. "Quite beautiful, huh?" He greedily reached toward her. "I came here at the Black Serpent's request, but didn't expect to be this lucky." Suddenly, Damien's voice rang out. He leaned against the door, gripping his sword tightly. Damien narrowed his eyes at him. "What are you doing?" Damien fixed his gaze on the dark sorcerer. "I came because I sensed a strange energy. It seems there is a suspicious person here." Panic filled his heart. "My magic should have put everyone to sleep, so why wasn't he affected? I couldn't even sense his presence until he got this close." The dark mage suddenly spun around, raising his hand high, his palm extending forward, releasing a blinding, swirling energy like a fierce tornado. In the breathless moment of combat, he managed to dodge the attack in time. Seeing Damien easily defend against the dark mage, he couldn't help but feel shocked. "Damn it, who exactly are you?" He immediately drew his sword. "That's a question I should be asking." "Do you even know this is my house?" Hearing that, he began to suspect, could you be Damien Hassan? He narrowed his eyes with a murderous glare. "Then tell me now, who are you and what did you do to my sister?" The household servants began to wake up after the loud noise. "What's all the commotion?" The sound came from Miss Louis's room. The dark mage glared back. It seemed the servants had been awakened by the recent explosion. Immediately after, his body was engulfed by a stream of light. The dark mage muttered, "If there are too many people here, it will be disadvantageous for me, no other choice." Instantly, the dark mage vanished into thin air. Damien hurriedly gave chase, stopping by the window, only to see that stream of light crawling along the ground. Damien tried to scan forward. Has he escaped? Just as he was still confused, his gaze suddenly froze on an empty space. Damien was stunned, staring at the energy clinging to the window. The next morning, screams echoed inside the mansion, and a trembling servant lifted a lamp, muttering, "What should we do now?" The Lord looked down at the dead body on the ground in panic. "The prized horse is dead. How do I explain this to the Count? He will be furious." The servant kept complaining. "This is a disaster. It was perfectly healthy yesterday, so why did it suddenly die?" Another sighed, shaking his head, speaking helplessly. "I don't know what happened either. I'm frustrated too." Damien suddenly stepped into the midst of the murmuring crowd. "I have a bad feeling." Seeing him, the servants panicked. "Young master, what's going on?" Damien immediately patted a shoulder to reassure. "No need to panic. I'm just here to confirm something." "I won't blame anyone." He turned his gaze to a servant. "Just let me borrow this room for a while." He hesitated. "Yes, sir." At that moment, Damien touched the horse's body with his bare hands, immediately using his body heat to sense. "So the trail of energy I lost track of last night has led me to the stable where one has died." All of Damien's senses activated. No doubt this person's energy is definitely dark mana, dark magic. A conclusion immediately flashed. That means he is a dark mage. He silently observed everyone in the house. "It seems my family still doesn't know about this." Damien's eyes suddenly brightened. No need to make them worry about this. At that moment, he looked up, following the energy trail stretching along the ground. At the same time, in a cave deep in the mountain, the dark mage chuckled softly from within. He sneered lightly, brushing his hand over a pile of miscellaneous ingredients on the table. The Black Serpent Leader, or whatever, really stupid. He really gathered all the things I asked for. The two dark mages couldn't help but feel excited. I said it was for a curse, but that was just a lie. With these ingredients, I won't lack materials for experiments in the near future. Later, the dark mage sighed helplessly. Anyway, I really have declined. Just think now, I have to take low-level requests just to earn some pocket money. Thinking of this, his face darkened. But considering the church is hunting me, there's no other choice. The dark mage muttered to himself, I have to stay hidden for a while. At that moment, Damien suddenly appeared. You really stink. He turned around in horror. As soon as he arrived, Damien teased old and still living all alone like this. Why not open a window for some fresh air? The dark mage immediately became alert. You're the stuttering guy, eyes never leaving him. You are the eldest son of Viscount Hagen, the one from yesterday. The dark mage instinctively steps back. How did you find this place? Damien honestly replies, I followed the stench you left behind. Hearing this, he is momentarily surprised. What? The dark mage frowns. Although I heard rumors that you were foolish enough to challenge the old dark one, it seems you are not an ordinary reckless kid. His hand gently strokes the sword hilt. Luckily, I'm still cautious. You are the one the Black Serpent hired, right? Without hesitation, he confesses as if shedding a mask. Yes, the more damage I cause, the bigger the reward. Thinking so, he mutters unconsciously. Hearing this, Damien chuckles softly. Pathetic taking a job like that only to die from it now. At Damien's strange words, the dark mage cautiously asks, what? Then he raises his hand and hisses sharply, you're really interesting. If I catch you, your father will turn you into a perfect pet for my amusement. Suddenly, Damien steps forward, gripping his sword tightly. Too bad that won't happen. You know I promised myself I wouldn't kill anyone unless absolutely necessary. However, there is one exception. His voice lowers and deepens like the verdict of an ancient judge, and that exception is filthy dark mages like you. Hearing this, he looks pleased. So you know about that too. Seems you're not just some ordinary fool. As soon as he finishes speaking, the dark mage quickly casts a spell. If you escape, I'll be in trouble. Better to die than to get away like that. Damien rushes at him. The dark mage mutters with cold sweat dripping down his back. Too fast. At that moment, Damien decisively swings his sword hard. He only manages a groan. Suddenly, the dark mage's face cracks. Then his body is ripped apart in two. Damien narrows his eyes, staring at the scene. His body is regenerating itself. Is this the ability I saw at the manor? Seeing him slowly recover, Damien can't help but marvel. Compared to that lousy job, he's stronger than I thought. The dark mage laughs crazily. That attack was nothing to me. Hearing that Damien swings his sword again, then I'll cut you into pieces until nothing is left. Instantly, his body is chopped into hundreds of fragments. The dark mage seems intrigued, not bad. Looks like your recent reputation didn't come from nowhere. But anyway, he growls, bind ears. The moment you stepped in here, you were dead. Then those disgusting creatures try to hold him down. They open their mouths wide and cover Damien all at once. The dark mage excitedly boasts, I set magical traps everywhere to deal with the church's pursuit. Damien's face instantly pales. This is a bit dangerous. At this moment, he hisses, bind ears. You will regret daring to oppose a high-ranking member of Euler. He keeps cursing your whole body will rot and die slowly. After a while, Damien's body is swallowed by the creatures. The dark mage slowly approaches from afar. He smirks. His eyes show contempt for the arrogant kid who shortened his own life. Suddenly, the dark mage recalls Cedric's instruction, the more damage caused, the bigger the reward. Thinking this, he mutters unconsciously, actually, this qualifies. Then the dark mage jumps up excitedly. Yeah, now no one can stop me anymore. Time to hunt down the woman I saw yesterday. From behind, Damien suddenly speaks the decomposition spell. He turns around in shock. You're still standing straight in front of the dark mage. He stammers in confusion. How are you not affected? The dark mage's voice trembles. How much do you know about dark magic? Damien doesn't answer, but asks back, guess. He whispers inside his body, seems to sense something burning inside him. Honestly, I'm stunned too, and actually so am I. Damien stared blankly at the symbol on his palm. Why do I still have power inside me? A vague image appeared in his mind, Dogo roaring fiercely. This is power also known as the strength of a god. While casting a spell, he suddenly turned his head. Dogo looked bewildered toward the knight, my death knight. He spoke in a deep, authoritative voice. I have given you the strongest body and infused you with the most powerful magic. However, I am still not satisfied. You must become the sword and embodiment of the greatest evil I possess. Immediately after, Doego cut deeply into his palm with a knife. Then he raised his hand toward the knight. I will grant you this power to turn you into the ultimate weapon. Instantly, an energy flow filled the entire room from within the vessel. Then they merged into one and shot inside. Dogo stared in amazement at the scene before him. This was his power. Immediately clasping his hands in front of his chest, the knight was surrounded by an energy aura on this side. At the same time, Doego tried to cast magic indeed, a terrifying power. At this moment, the energy rays gradually entered the knight's body, his hair fluttering in the wind. After a moment, the knight let out a deafening roar, his entire body seemingly engulfed by dark energy. Seeing this, Doego smiled with satisfaction. Finally, his eyes suddenly lit up. I have obtained it too. Meanwhile, the knight's eyes glowed with a mystical light. From that day on, the knight possessed the power of a god. In another scene, Damien furrowed his brow. No doubt this is the power of greed, the strength he once had as a death knight. I thought I lost it when I regressed, but now it has reappeared. At the same time, a sphere of energy rushed toward him and his whole body was immediately thrown back. The dark sorcerer nearly went mad, shouting, "Now answer me, how did you survive my curse?" At this moment, Damien calmly replied, "Doesn't everyone have one or two aces up their sleeve?" His eyes suddenly changed. "Oh, and that guy said he was a high-ranking member of Euler, right?" Memories flooded back again. I had heard of Yulon, an organization specializing in assassination using dark magic. Thinking of this, Damien's eyes lit up. No wonder he's so strong. On the other side, the dark sorcerer muttered, "An ace up his sleeve, huh? There's something off about him. The longer this drags on, the worse it gets. I need to end it quickly." Sensing the danger, he took out a bracelet. I had planned to save this move for facing the church, but it looks like I have to use it now. He watched closely. "Do you also have an ace up your sleeve?" Instantly, the bracelet emitted a strange light. In the blink of an eye, the dark sorcerer transformed his hand, curling light continuously, pouring from the bracelet, his eyes turning a milky white. On this side, Damien watched cautiously. That's a lot of dark mana. He examined the bracelet carefully and suspected it was used to store and conceal the main mana. At this moment, the dark sorcerer roared, "No matter how you break my magic, you won't be able to withstand this power." He swung his hand at Damien, muttering a curse, "Burn and die in eternal hellfire." Suddenly, a giant mouth appeared from the void, rushing toward him like a whirlwind. After a while, the energy gradually dissipated. The dark sorcerer smiled triumphantly. "Finished. Now he has been burned by the flames of the seventh hell, burning forever, even after death." At this moment, Damien peeked out from behind the light. "You have seriously misunderstood something." The sorcerer instinctively used his own flames, but Damien continued, "The power of greed isn't to destroy magic." The knight lowered his head, gripping the sword tightly surrounded by a circle. At this moment, Damien looked up at the dark sorcerer, absorbing all the dark mana. He spoke firmly. "Why does someone like you have such terrifying power?" He raised his sword high. "This has nothing to do with you. Just because I have better gear doesn't mean anything." Damien gritted his teeth, frustrated that he had to rely on the power granted by the one he hated most. Cold, icy light shone in Damien's eyes. "However, to take down the one standing before me right now, I have no choice but to use the skills of a death knight." The dark mage paused briefly upon sensing the sudden shift in aura down. Yes, that is a sword skill said to be wielded only by those who have reached the realm of swordmasters. How could he possibly wait a moment? Damien seemed not to care and swung the hilt of his sword hard. Immediately after, Damien delivered a decisive, soul-cutting sword strike, the slash piercing straight through the dark mage's forehead. The dark mage's body was severed instantly. Right after, the space immediately shifted, and the surrounding area began to shake violently. At that moment, Damien raised his sword high forward, his eyes flashing a cold, sharp glint. Soon after, the dark mage's corpse was buried beneath a layer of earth and rocks. Damien pointed the tip of his sword directly at the man's temple. "If you tell me before you die, I will ease your pain." Then he glanced down at the cold, dagger-like eyes hidden within the dark serpent's lair. Quickly switch scenes to Landwork, the commercial city. On a rattling carriage, Victor cautiously asked, "Why do you insist on returning to Landwork?" Without looking up, Damien replied, "You're my most loyal. Victor, if you truly want to follow me, please keep quiet." He furrowed his brow, eyes fixed on the book in his hands. The Lord's face looked relaxed, but the face in the book he was reading was not. Victor couldn't help but feel curious. "What are you reading?" Damien looked down at the book covered in face leather, excitedly admiring it. "This is the dark magic tome I just obtained after killing that dark mage." Victor put on a knowing expression, his voice slow and muddy. You're joking, right? Although I'm a fool who can't read, I know that dark magic tomes are extremely dangerous and hard to handle. While mumbling, he suddenly frowned and sniffed several times. But what is that smell? It's been here the whole time. Just as Victor was confused, the carriage suddenly stopped. The door quickly swung open and Damien excitedly stepped outside. We've arrived. Victor grimaced as Damien handed him a dark-colored cloth mask. A strong, fishy smell hit him as soon as it was opened. The smell came from this mask. What's this? Damien replied lightly, as if talking about an everyday story. Victor hurriedly opened the young master's bag. Listen, no matter how foolish I am, these jokes. As soon as he opened the bag, his whole body stiffened, and Victor screamed in horror. Seeing this, Damien immediately took back the item. He couldn't hold back and shouted, "Young master!" Damien hurriedly signaled for silence. Quiet look, people are watching. Trying to hide his panic, Victor asked, "What is that?" He replied briefly, "I'll explain later," right after Damien brought 2 items before him. "Just take these to the place I designate so no trouble arises before the mission." Victor showed a scared face. Trouble. Meanwhile, at another scene inside a skyscraper, Damien suddenly approached and snorted coldly. Damien brazenly taunted the group of scoundrels. "You dare to openly build your headquarters right in the city center, easy to find." They immediately roared, "Who the hell are you?" He spoke clearly, each word piercing the enemy's ears. "I am Damien Hassan of the Baron Hassan territory." Hearing this, One-Eyed mocked, "Hagen. That name sounds like pig's feet." He hurriedly covered his eyes. "Wait, this name sounds like the leader they mentioned." Damien stood there motionless. Suddenly he spoke up, "So you know who I am?" One-Eyed pointed toward the door. "Yeah, just straight ahead." Damien tilted his head in disbelief. "You don't want to hear my reasons." At that moment, Baldy suddenly pulled out a gun. He aimed the gun at the sky and pulled the trigger. The sky nearly exploded from the first shot. The loudmouth laughed loudly. "You think we'd just say that?" A confused voice asked, "What did you just do?" Immediately, from small corners inside, the men lunged out one after another. He sneered mockingly, "What else? This is the gift our leader prepared for you." Shortly after, he was surrounded by the group. At this moment, Damien smirked disdainfully. He touched the bag on his hip eyes, scanning the enemy. "Don't regret this." Meanwhile, Sebastian casually sipped his drink. The man happily hissed, "Thanks, Cedric, I'm feeling great today." At the same time, Robert, looking worn out, said, "One more glass." Sebastian laughed heartily. "Really?" "That's right." Cedric flattered him endlessly. "I'm even more grateful that you came here." He glanced at him with a calculating look. Cyrix spoke about the trade locations controlled by other business organizations. "I think Black Serpent can take them over." Hearing this, he couldn't help but feel excited. "Really, Cyrix?" Smiling cheerfully. "If that's the case, then that's wonderful. But what if others oppose it?" Sebastian curled his lip, his tone confident with a touch of arrogance. "I have the power. Those guys are no problem." At this time, Robert mumbled, "I wish I could do something." Seeing this, Cyrix quickly flattered him. "Lord Robert, protecting the city yourself is already admirable." He gave a mysterious smile mixed with a meaningful comment. "Guarding security in a big city like Landwork isn't easy. I know you're being humble, but there's no need to humble yourself that much." Hearing this, he tried to suppress a laugh. "Is that so?" Sebastian laughed loudly, like old comrades. "So if anything happens, just tell us. We'll help you as much as we can within our power." Robert raised his bottle. "Drink some more." The courtesans nearby chimed in. "Governor, you're so cool." Cedric immediately leaned forward, grateful. "Then thank you both very much." Meanwhile, he grinned wickedly. "I don't want to bow down to that trash anymore." Cyrix looked up at the group. "Soon Black Serpent will seize everything." They saw the snake open its mouth wide as if ready to swallow everything whole. Thinking this, he smirked coldly. "By then, they'll be the ones bowing to me." Just then, the guard burst in. "Boss," Cyrix looked annoyed. "What is it? Can't you see I have guests?" He appeared urgent. "I sincerely apologize, but there's something urgent to report." Hearing this, he quickly went outside. "What is it?" The guard hesitated briefly, then leaned close to Cedric's ear and whispered. Hearing this, Cedric shouted in surprise, "What Damien Hassan?" His face immediately changed color. "What is he scheming?" Luckily, I had already warned my men. Cyrix waved his hand. "I understand, go." The guard looked confused and asked, "But is it okay to just leave him like that?" He almost shouted, "What are you worried about?" Cyrix said coldly, "He's coming to seek his own death." But outside, Damien was drinking a magical elixir. As soon as he finished it, he transformed. Damien glanced at the people around him. Then he quickly slaughtered them all, even though things didn't go as we expected. At the same time, the crowd all turned to look in one direction. They saw a group of mages rushing through the streets. One of them glared angrily. His gaze could pierce through the night. Syrinx looked pale. His eyes widened in terror. Sweat poured down his forehead. He was itching nervously on the balcony, stepping outside because he sensed something was wrong. Syrinx stared blankly down at the group lying sprawled out. How could this happen? He couldn't believe his eyes. That kid took care of everything himself. Syrinx was almost dazed. He muttered the name. That kid said his name was Damien Hassan, really. A soldier hurried forward. Yes, sir, he really said that. Hearing this, he instinctively shivered with fear. The rumors said he was just the useless son of a baron. Didn't expect he'd be this capable. Syrinx pressed his lips tightly. His eyelashes trembled continuously. So all the dark mages I sent have been wiped out. He didn't think much, and immediately turned around. This is bad, I have to go ask for help. The soldier called after him in confusion, Sir! At that moment, a staff pointed directly at him. He looked up. Is that thing made of magic? At the same time, a man shouted, Monster, let's see if you can block this. Immediately, the orb spewed out blazing red flames. It moved under his control straight towards Damien. Yet he showed no hesitation. He pointed his sword directly at the man. The man shouted with a twisted smile of contempt, You fool, you think you can stop our flames with just that sword? The sword in my hand on this island, suddenly the flames began to move. Following the instructions, I saw his swift body dash alongside the flames. After a moment, the fireball suddenly changed direction to attack him. Immediately, the explosion sent smoke dust and debris flying everywhere. Damien calmly glanced at the bodies of the group, his face expressionless, certain his task here was done. He turned his head, cold eyes scanning the battlefield. Now was the time to find out who the leader of the Black Serpent really was. Just as he was about to leave, an entity suddenly charged at him. He quickly dodged to the side as the person slammed their head hard on the ground, their foot pressing deep into the earth. Damien glanced at the thick layer of dust clinging to the person's aura arm as they clumsily got back up. In a cold voice like ice, he said, I wonder which bastard caused all this trouble. He fixed his gaze on the opponent. If his aura was at this level, the man clenched his fist and let out a mighty roar, seeming like just an overly confident kid. Hearing this, Damien judged that he must be an official engineer. At the same time, the crowd began to panic at the outbreak of battle. He scanned around, counting people. Both engineers and city security guards were present. What's this? Sebastian spoke with authority. How dare you cause chaos right in the city center? He raised his head, groaning. I am Sebastian Baker, governor of Landwork. You will be duly punished. Yet Damien showed no sign of backing down. Oh, the big shot is here, huh? He turned to question Sebastian. Are you going to punish me? Why? Sebastian scowled angrily. What nonsense is this? Don't you realize how serious the trouble you caused is? Sebastian, furious, tightened his chest. You not only dared to attack Mr. Cedric, a decent merchant, but also his company, massacring over 10 innocent employees. The young man spoke with a sarcastic echo. What since when was that thug considered a merchant? That's ridiculous. Someone beside him quickly signaled to be quiet before he could hear. He growled, Absolutely unforgivable. Syrinx sneered contemptuously. No matter how ruthless you are, you can't touch someone under the governor's protection. Damien's voice deepened like thunder before a storm, his hand beckoning provocatively. So you're the leader of the Black Serpent, finally found you. Come here and let me punch you. Seeing this, the man's stiffened chest heaving with anger at this insolent kid. Damien tilted his head, looking without respect. He had guessed the Black Serpent colluded with the city government, but this was true loyalty bordering on worship. He began taunting, You're funny, Governor. You call a trash like him a decent merchant. Your judgment is laughably terrible. Faced with the exposure, he nearly shouted, Shut up! If you beg me now, I might reduce your punishment. Damien boldly challenged, If I did nothing wrong, why should I beg? Sebastian was so furious he trembled. This insolent brat! He immediately turned to his companion. I was lenient because you are young, but you've left me no choice. Don't blame me for this. Sir Robert received the order and stepped forward. Robert grabbed the axe slung behind his back and growled as he approached Damien. I am Robert, the city's guard engineer. Drop your weapon and surrender. Damien scanned around, then chuckled softly. The city guard engineer has to step in personally. Robert squinted, speaking evenly, but with killing intent. You are truly different. Though you say that there's no fear in your eyes, are you brave or just foolish? Damien didn't hesitate, confidently meeting Robert's gaze. I'm confident. Hearing this, Robert let out a malicious smile and immediately swung his axe. So you're just an idiot. Damien gasped, eyes darting quickly to find a defense. Though he spoke boldly, with his current level, fighting him wouldn't be easy. Damien silently calculated, now I just need to hold on until the right moment comes. Robert suddenly swung his fist toward him. Caught off guard by the attack, Damien was knocked backward. He immediately executed a flip. Damien looked at his injured arm, gritting his teeth in pain. I've tried to defend as best as I could, but he still hit so hard. He covertly glanced behind him. Is she still not here? Meanwhile, Robert suddenly charged forward, shouting fiercely, Where are you looking? Seeing the axe blade close to Damien's face, he instinctively used his body to block it. He's too fast. In this critical moment, a mysterious person suddenly jumped out to shield him. The axe in Robert's hand immediately flew far away, embedding hard into the ground. Witnessing this, the soldiers executed the two men on the spot. Cedric and Sebastian widened their eyes in shock. One questioned sharply, You have accomplices, who are you? Identify yourself immediately. A woman slowly removed her cloak. Her gaze was cold as eternal ice, and her body radiated extraordinary energy. The soldiers quickly regained their composure, stunned and bewildered. Impossible. This figure is Robert. Victor, quick to recognize a holy knight behind, excitedly called out young Master Damien, exhaling deeply. Why are you so late? He ran excitedly. Young Master, I'm here. Victor kept waving his hand, signaling I'm here. Upon seeing the woman from Syrinx, he clenched his teeth. A holy knight here. So the church has gotten involved after all. Thinking this, he couldn't help but feel a bit frightened. Have they found out about my dealings with the dark mages? At the same time, Victor quickly asked Han, Oh, young master, are you all right? Damien immediately covered his mouth. No, not at all. I was getting annoyed waiting for you. Do you want to get kicked out or what? At this moment, he calmly observed the woman before him. So this is the church's holy knight. Victor beside him kept waving young Master Damien. Not forgetting to praise, at least you did exactly as I told you. Hearing that, he smiled brightly, definitely. If there's no problem, just leave all orders to me, Victor. A few hours earlier, at a magnificent mansion, just as the group was praying, Victor suddenly threw open the door. Noticing the noise, the woman immediately spun around. He entered with sweat on his face, struggling to speak. This is a branch of the Holy Cross Church, right? The woman quickly approached and nodded in confirmation. Yes, what's the matter? Victor hurriedly handed over a bag along with a notebook. The young master told me to deliver this to the church as fast as possible. He continued in a slightly trembling voice. Basically, this is evidence of someone colluding with dark mages. The woman reached out to touch the item. Can I see that? Victor didn't hesitate to hand it to her. Ah, sure, here it is. The woman stared at the notebook covered in magic. Though a bit faint, this energy was definitely dark magic. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a key point, moreover this symbol. She abruptly snatched the bag from Victor's hand. Could it be? Without hesitation, she reached to pull the corpse's collar out. As the head was removed, his face darkened. The woman's eyes lit up immediately. Finally found him Agata, one of the leaders of Yulin. Victor grabbed her sleeve, back to reality now. The woman threw off her cloak full of determination. Who told you to bring this here? Where is he right now? After a moment, the woman showed a shy expression. Are you Damien Hansen? He nodded in confirmation. Yes, that's me. Victor beside him raised an eyebrow. Quick change of face. She stepped closer to Damien. I have the evidence now. The church will deal with you. She spoke with a friendly tone. Of course, Damien lowered his voice respectfully. We won't interfere with the church's affairs. Please proceed. Hearing that, the woman placed her hand on her chest and bowed respectfully. Thank you very much. Smiling with satisfaction. A holy knight of the church, everything is going just as I hoped. The church dedicates their whole lives to serving God and always shows kindness and charity to common folk. But when facing heretics and demons, they will not hesitate to sacrifice their very souls. A group of fanatics, the pioneers of the cathedral, are the Holy Knights. Damien looked up proudly at the woman, along with those holy knights who were now on her side. At that moment, she raised her voice loudly, echoing throughout the realm. To all soldiers and civilians, listen up. The cathedral has received a report that someone has conspired with the wanted dark mage who is currently in land work. A murmur erupted like a storm. Dark mage. The person beside couldn't help but be astonished. Who on earth would deal with those filthy scum? Disgusting. Immediately after, the woman declared firmly, her voice like crashing waves. Therefore, while we investigate those involved, the cathedral will temporarily take control of this city. Hearing this, Sebastian strained his neck to retort, What? What do you mean Landwork is a city granted self-governance by the kingdom, yet the cathedral wants to rule this city while I, the governor, am still here? She remained calm, her cold gaze flicking toward him. Governor Sebastian eradicating heresy is God's will. The cathedral's power surpasses even the kingdom's authority. He growled once more. How dare you? I will officially file a complaint about this with the cathedral. The woman's expression darkened, her voice harsh with each word. Moreover, she decisively exposed, you and your knights are the primary suspects. Sebastian immediately began to tremble, hesitating as he retorted, What do you mean by that? Why would we cooperate with a dark mage? She immediately pointed at Cedric. He is the one who hid and sheltered the dark mage. The woman narrowed her eyes at him, her voice growing colder. Just shielding someone like that is suspicious enough. Hearing this, Sebastian was nearly stunned. Sir Cedric, is this true? He frantically denied with his hands, No way, why would I do that? That's utterly illogical. She calmly crossed her arms and half-closed her eyes. We have clear evidence right here, yet you still deny it. Then the woman presented a notebook before them. Everything is recorded in this book. Cyrix Wicker, what did you buy? Where did you buy it for that dark mage? Nothing's missing, just cross-reference with the records from the shops, and you'll know if he's lying or telling the truth. Cyrix glared, sweat beading on his forehead. That damn mage, why would you keep records of that stuff? He tried to defend himself. It's a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding. I swear I have nothing to do with that mage. The woman said nothing, just coldly waved her hand. That will be clarified during the investigation. Immediately, she gestured to have him taken away. One of them shouted, Hold Cedric down quickly! Sebastian glanced around, his orange eyes filled with hatred, staring at Damien. That bastard already planned everything in advance. Sebastian clenched his teeth, his body heat rising. I can't just get caught like this. Who knows what these fanatics will do to me? At the same time, Cedric suddenly shouted, Sir Robert, are you really going to just give up like this? Those bastards are so reckless they dare to frame you. Seeing him indifferent, Cedric shouted hoarsely, Sir Robert, over here! He pressed his lips tight to endure, then Robert suddenly sprang up, rushing toward the axe blade. I guess if I just let myself get caught like this, death is the only outcome. Robert quickly grabbed the axe blade, turning toward the woman and roaring angrily, I'll kill you and escape! Witnessing that scene, Cedric laughed with satisfaction. Meanwhile, Damien calmly observed, he's made a mistake. As the axe blade came down, the woman immediately jumped up, swinging her fist hard. How foolish! Seeing the woman's stance, Robert almost froze in place. Instantly, she punched hard into his chest, piercing through 5 vital organs, already shocked by the scene. Unlike them, Damien only smiled coldly. At that moment, the woman shouted with authority, Whoever dares defy God's will, no matter who they are. She defiantly withdrew her hand from him. Robert's entire body collapsed to the ground, no longer able to fight. The woman coldly looked at his corpse. They must face punishment. That is God's will. Cedric knelt, banging his head on the ground. Sebastian struggled desperately, his eyes wide like a madman. Let me go. These ridiculous fools, Victor sneered with contempt. Is he really the notorious boss of Black Snake? Dammy glanced at him with a smug look. Yes, that's him. Hearing this, you couldn't help but feel disdain. Not quite as the rumors say, huh? He looks no different from a nobody. Just a fat guy like me. Sirius clenched his teeth in anger. I never expected these bastards to get me into this mess. After a moment, Damien glanced at Agnes, his eyes showing gratitude. Thanks to her, everything was settled smoothly. He couldn't help but sigh. I suspected it, but I didn't realize she was stronger than I thought. Damien carefully observed the holy power radiating from Agnes. This girl, judging by her holy power, is definitely a disciple of Tan Vien Brigandes, the strongest in the sanctuary, one of the 5 great saints. He is famous for defeating many heretics. At the same time, she suddenly called out loudly to him, Damien Hassan. Agnes slowly approached, struggling to express her gratitude for his action of taking down a high-ranking Yulan. Damien just tilted his head slightly, his tone calm. I only did what any normal person should do. Agnes nodded, her eyes full of goodwill. As for this time, I will acknowledge your contribution and won't charge you any fees. He furrowed his brow slightly. I'm not sure what you mean. She spoke softly, her expression showing suspicion. Isn't it that you joined the sanctuary to cover up your attack on Black Snake? Damien was silent for a moment. She easily saw through his intention. Is that so? That's really sharp. He quickly bowed his head, his voice low. I sincerely apologize if I offended you. This dark mage not only cursed our territory, but also harmed the relatives I cherish. Hearing this, Agnes's expression flickered briefly. She was silent for a moment, her face expressionless. Ednis exhaled softly, as if wanting to close the matter. Since things have come to this, I can't hold you responsible for anything more. Damien watched her leave, his eyes quiet. She's more flexible than the rumors say. Then Ednis suddenly announced, the bounty for Atigo's head will be awarded soon. He was a bit surprised. There's a bounty too. How much is it? Just as I expected, she immediately answered without hesitation, 1,000 gold coins. Victor's eyes lit up behind him. That's enough to buy a small castle. Lucky! Damien pondered for a moment. But what I want to ask from the sanctuary is... He casually stated his condition. If possible, can I get something other than the bounty money? Victor ground his teeth. What, after spending that much money, he still refuses to accept it? Ednis nodded without hesitation. Sure, what do you want? Damien replied without hesitation. I want to have one of the mana cultivation manuals from the sanctuary. Her expression immediately changed. I don't quite understand. You're strong enough to defeat Black Snake yourself, yet that's what you want. He didn't reply, but silently nodded. After fighting the Dark Mage, Damien realized one thing previously: his victories were mostly thanks to the power of the gauntlet. But from now on, to defeat formidable enemies in the future and reach the levels to beat Doego, Damien really needs the mana cultivation manuals used by the Knights. Those are much more advanced than what he has learned. Back to reality, he quickly explained, I only learned basic skills. I'm requesting this to improve my abilities. Ednis was stunned and exclaimed, You reached this level just with basic cultivation manuals. Her gaze stopped on Damien. I can feel a significant amount of aura flowing inside him. If what he says is true, then his talent is extraordinary. Ednis pondered silently, her eyes fixed on him. Wait, he also has the determination to eliminate a heretic without hesitation. Perhaps a sudden thought flashed in her mind. If that's the case, there's something even better. Are you interested? Damien perked up to listen. Something even better. Ednis responded immediately. Exactly. She immediately reached out to him, her eyes sparkling. Do you want to become a holy knight? Before the radiance from Ednis, Damien was almost motionless. He calmly shook his head. I refuse. She immediately leaned back, startled. Oh my God. Victor curiously tilted his head toward the person who had just taken down such a strong opponent with only a word. Damien quickly signaled, Shut up, you fool. Ednis muttered at this moment. Why not? She still growled with frustration. Becoming a holy knight is an honorable privilege granted by God. It allows you to act in God's name to destroy demons. Victor immediately panicked and shouted, his voice trembling, Do you know how hard it is to get this position? Damien calmly avoided eye contact. Sorry, but I don't have any faith at all. And above all, he sank alone in thought. I don't want to be a dog for the Holy Church. I can't say that. Just make something up then. Damien cleared his throat softly to regain attention. He sincerely placed his hand over his chest. I am still not worthy of receiving God's love. Right after, Damien did not hesitate to share his feelings. Now I just want to travel the world and follow the footsteps of the divine like a humble believer. Victor beside him silently clenched his fist. Young master, do you really think that kind of lie will work anymore? At the same time, Ednis scrambled to her feet, quickly rushing over to tightly hold his hand. Those words are so holy, it's like my ears have been enlightened. He gaped in amazement. That works too. Ednis's eyes sparkled as she looked up at Damien as if it was his wish. We will give you mana to practice instead of a reward, but if you change your mind, don't hesitate to come to the church. I will personally welcome you. There's one more thing I want to say. He hastily pulled his hand back and forced a smile. All right, sorry, that probably won't happen. The atmosphere paused for a second, then she suddenly spoke up. Now that I think about it, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Ednis. I am the first disciple of Tan Wiem. Damien smiled with satisfaction. I knew it, so she was the first accepted. He politely responded, It's an honor to meet you, Agnes. At this moment, he spoke regretfully. Can I go handle my business now? Ednis did not stop him this time, only showed curiosity. Do whatever you want. What are you planning to do, Damien? Slowly approaching Cedric's spot when he saw him, he shouted in horror, You brat! The boss angrily roared, Even if I die, I will. Before he could finish, Damien suddenly kicked him hard in the stomach, and Cyrix immediately collapsed. Seeing that, he sarcastically said, Your belly is really fat, looks like it's already into your knees. Hearing that, he gritted his teeth. You bastard. Before he could finish speaking, Damien once again kicked Cedric in the face, showing no mercy as he stomped on him. After a while, Damien finally exhaled with relief, satisfied as he looked at Cedric's battered body. Now I feel more comfortable. At the same time, Victor approached and whispered in Damien's ear, Young master, Everything is done now, right? He shrugged lightly and smiled. Yeah, done, I guess. Scene shifts to the Marquis estate of the Leon Bloom family. Holland suddenly barges in, shouting. He sees the man curled up on the bed, his whole body trembling violently. Eugene peeked his head out to look at his father. Huh! Seeing him, Holland hurriedly ran over, panic-stricken, as he held Eugene. What happened, son? He immediately raised his voice accusingly. That bastard tried to kill you. At that moment, Augie trembled as she recounted every detail. He held a knife. No, it was meant to kill your son. Looking at him with pity, my once cheerful child has now turned into this fearful state. Holland asked in a low voice. What happened to the soldiers? Tell me clearly who dared to do this to my son. The man hesitated briefly. It was... Seeing this, he shouted angrily, Speak! The man trembled as he reported, It was the Hassan territory, sir. At the same time, ceramic jars neatly placed on the shelf fell heavily to the ground one by one. Holland angrily kicked over everything in the room, shouting, What? That low-class Hassan dares to lay a hand on my beloved son. He must have used some despicable trick, yes, definitely. Holland ground his teeth and ordered, Send people to the Hassan territory immediately for me. His eyes burned with hatred. Drag that dog here. Scene shifts to the Hassan mansion outside. Ednis greets, Hello, Viscount Hassan. She respectfully bows, I am Agnes, a holy knight affiliated with the cathedral. Seeing Agnes, Hassan is surprised, but welcomes her warmly. Marilda immediately salutes, Hello, sir, angrily turning to look at Damien. This kid not only causes trouble behind my back, but now brings a fellow believer home with him. Later, Viscount Hassan pretends to be kind. Damien already told me the boy said you ladies will be staying here for a while. Ednis bows again in reply. Yes, this decision is to support the investigation of the heretic. We hope for your cooperation. Seeing this, he subtly tries to get rid of them. As you can see, the house is small. I'm not sure if there's a suitable room for you. Quickly hands over a bag of gold. Thank you for your hospitality. This is a small token of our gratitude. Hassan immediately changes his expression. Please consider this place your home and rest comfortably. She suddenly steps quickly to Damien. I want to thank you again for allowing the investigation team to work here. He puts on a displeased face, even though she says there's another favor unexpectedly she came to his home. Ednis steps closer. Damien, the investigation is very important. May I say one more thing? He looks up at her. About what? She replies without hesitation, about you. Damien means he wants to preach over there. Hassan and Marilda stop in their tracks. She turns back curiously. Oh, wow, I wonder what she wants to find out. Damien shows a bored expression. It's not what you two think. Turning back to Agnes, she suddenly presents an item. These are the mana cultivation books you requested, carefully selected. Damien takes them, looking confused. Thanks a lot. Why did you bring me 2 books? Ednis quickly explains, one of them is a swordsmanship book. It wouldn't make sense to give cultivation books without sword techniques. He hesitates for a moment, then accepts, I don't need swordsmanship much, but having it can't hurt. Forceful sword techniques, forceful internal energy cultivation. Damien carefully examines. These are swordsmanship and martial arts books I've never seen in my past life. Over here, Ednis shyly speaks, these books are very hard to find. He replies shortly without any flattery, I know, thank you. She emphasizes again, honestly, it wasn't easy to get them. Damien slightly frowns. You really had to put in a lot of effort. Ednis suddenly boasts, yes, in the end I had to rely on my master's authority. When I told my master about you, he said you are the chosen one the cathedral needs. Seizing the moment, she steps closer with hopeful eyes. So once again, please consider becoming a holy knight, will you? But this time, Damien firmly pulls his hand away. He is silent for a moment, then softly says sorry. Hearing that Ednis looks briefly disappointed, I understand. She turns away, her hair shining in the soft light of dusk. It would be rude to say more, but if you change your mind, come find me. He quietly glances, just as I thought. A sarcastic inner thought crosses Damien's mind. She really is a fanatic. That kind of blind devotion is impressive. Not a word of confession, denial. Meanwhile, at a noisy cave. Inside, a youth suddenly shouts, Hey, you next to me! Startled, the other replies, What's up? He stares at the remaining handkerchief covering his nose. Don't you think this is suspicious? The companion answers indifferently. What do you mean? The youth's eyes turn serious. Think about who Agato is. He's a high-ranking figure in Euler, who has escaped the cathedral's pursuit many times. He angrily throws the handkerchief on the table. Agato definitely belongs to the cursed faction. Weak in close combat. But even so, does it make sense for a powerful dark mage like Agato to be killed by a rustic noble? The companion exhales softly. Actually, I wondered the same thing. Ednis says nothing about that matter. Hearing this, the young man immediately interrupted. But shouldn't we bring up this issue? The man cut in right away. Let's finish the investigation first, then we talk. Now focus on the investigation. A sudden voice echoed to the two, "Can we trust Damien Hassan?" The group looked at her in horror. At this moment, Ednis slowly stepped closer. "I know why you suspect him, but he didn't lie. Still, I can't understand how he could have killed Agato." At that moment, Ednis suddenly changed her tone. A gentle, pleasant voice. "We already heard him tell the story." The group looked at each other in confusion. "Did we?" At that time, Damien scratched his head shyly. "I just dodged the blow and then chopped his head off." The group whispered to her simultaneously. "Is that what he said back then?" The man asked with a suspicious face. "You mean he really just dodged and killed him like that?" Ednis nodded softly as confirmation that day when his servant brought back Agito's head. "Even I doubted his skills," she continued. Her voice echoed throughout the cave, so I stayed to observe instead of intervening directly. Ednis recounted the whole story. He fought alone against more than 10 people without a scratch, completely overpowering the opponents. What shocked me the most was, as she spoke, the image of the area engulfed in flames appeared vividly. At the last moment, she emphasized each word. He blocked a fireball, or in other words, a magic spell. Hearing this, the group's eyes widened in shock. Is that true? Ednis didn't confirm it's possible. "I've heard that those who reach the level of a swordsman can block all kinds of attacks, even magic." The man immediately speculated if that's true. "Could Damien Hassan be—" She nodded slightly in agreement. "Of course, I'm not saying he—" She glanced at his suddenly serious face, "although my main purpose here is to capture Ewan. But actually, I also want to bring Damien Hassan along to meet my master. He could become a valuable asset to this cathedral." After a moment of silence, Ednis said decisively, "So please put aside your doubts and focus on the investigation." The group hesitated briefly. Finally, they answered in unison, "Understood." In another development, the sound of horse hooves rang out rapidly. The soldiers stopped at an area. Obi stretched out his arms and yawned. "Looks like we've finally arrived." Lavender quickly covered her nose with her hand. "Hey, Obi. What's that smell? It's awful," he teased. "Damn it. Did you bring perfume if this smell sticks?" At the same time, Garrick shouted, "Shut up! The official knight of the Leon Bloom family." "Garrick." He turned his eyes sharply to the group. Now Garrick stepped forward. His gaze, as sharp as a blade, looked toward the distant building. "That's the Hassan mansion, right?" Obi responded. "Yes, Sir Garrick." He immediately asked seriously, "What mission did the Marquis assign to us?" The man hesitated for a moment, then reported, "Our mission is to arrest Damien Hassan." Gareth glanced into the distance. His eyes revealed murderous intent. "Catching the trash is easy, but that alone won't restore the honor of young Master Eric and the Marquis." At the same time, his eyes suddenly glanced back. They saw a man with a cane trembling as he walked. He calmly passed by the group without any fear. Seeing this, Garrick immediately called out loudly, "Hey, old man!" The man turned without any hesitation. "Who are you?" He then probed, "Do you live in the Marquis Hassan's mansion?" The man honestly nodded. "Yes, what's the matter?" Immediately, Garrick ended the man's life with a single slash. He quickly sheathed his sword, muttering with contempt, "Just a commoner." Garrick coldly looked at the man's cold corpse, yet didn't bow upon seeing the Leon Bloom family crest. That's a grave offense. Obi behind swallowed nervously. Was he blind? He called out loudly, "Lavender, Obi." Both answered at the same time, "Yes, sir." Only Garrick curled his lips into a malicious smile. "I have a very good idea." He roared heroically, "When we reach Hassan's mansion, we'll drag that bastard Damien Hassan out." At the same time, Victor looked back in confusion. Garrick charged forward on horseback. He coldly swept his gaze over him, "And then we will slaughter anyone who crosses our sight." At the same moment, 3 figures stood silently by large rocks at the foot of the towering gray cliff. The man cautiously reported, "Because the area collapsed, we couldn't gather as much information as expected." Ednis smiled lightly and spoke reassuringly. "It's okay, everyone did very well." Suddenly the man turned around, eyes wide open. "Huh, that is—" Right before them was Damien sitting in meditation on a rock surrounded by water. After a moment, Damien lightly moved his lips as if absorbing energy, then suddenly pressed his lips tight, seeming to hold back the energy. The group was almost stunned on the spot. "Oh my God. What is that?" The person beside quietly replied, "I don't know what it is, but it's amazing." Epniche's eyes widened, her whole body tensed from shock. "What am I looking at?" She looked up at him in confusion. "The Baluk Suk Ki Kong I gave Damien is a cultivation method. If you reach the highest level, it allows you to absorb mana around you. Doubt flickered in Ednis's heart, but he only took a few hours to do that. Damien suddenly exhaled sharply, just realizing the unusual gazes of the group. Damien immediately stood up and slowly approached everyone finished investigating Ednis. She quickly ran over. Yes, she looked up at him with admiration. Damien, it seems like you've improved a lot. His face was strangely calm, just nodding slightly, his voice light as a breeze. Just a little Damien unconsciously clenched the book. She really wasn't exaggerating when she said it's very hard to find. In my past life, I was a swordsman, so swordsmanship didn't mean much, but this cultivation method is extremely useful. Baluk Suk Ki Kong was created to compensate for the large amount of mana consumed by Baluk Suk Gyai Kiem, so it gathers mana faster than other skills, even temporarily drawing mana from outside back into reality. Epnish seemed never to take her eyes off this. Mianan hurriedly raised her right hand. Is it dinner time already? The background looks like this again. Does she want to go back right away? Dinner is being prepared. Damien suddenly squinted, his face strangely tense. What's this murderous aura? Immediately he turned around to look behind. The bugs had arrived. Damien's face grew paler and paler. He spoke in a low voice. I have urgent business to handle, so I'll leave first, Miss Epnish. Please take your time heading back. Before she could respond, Damien ran straight into the forest. The man behind quickly covered his hand to observe, continually exclaiming, so fast. On this side, Ednis couldn't help but feel admiration. Moving that quickly with so little mana, he must be controlling it at an extremely sophisticated level, right? A doubt suddenly flashed in her mind. How far are his limits? In another scene, a fist suddenly shot through the air. Then Lavender stepped forward and punched Victor hard, causing him to collapse in pain. He sneered. Lavender seemed unwilling to let Victor go madly stomping on him. You filthy bastard. Dare to resist me, I said. Hand over Damien Hassan now. Victor held his head tightly with both hands, constantly protesting no. You guys plan to harm him from inside the house. The servant shouted loudly here. The Viscount immediately shouted loudly, stop right now. Lavender quickly guessed, you must be Viscount Hassan. Garrick paid no attention and hurriedly caught Victor. Are you okay? Hassan couldn't help but shout. What the hell is going on here? Why are knights assaulting civilians? At the same time, Garrick stepped forward. Compared to what your mansion did to the Leon Bloom family, this is nothing. He raised his voice to command, his tone cutting like a blade through Viscount Paul Hassan and Baron Leon Bloom. Demand the immediate surrender of Damien Hassan. Garrick didn't forget to threaten, hand him over obediently and your domain will be fine. Hassan gritted his teeth sharply. Leon Bloom, I expected retaliation, but this is just brutal. On this side, Garrick sneered, clearly a lie. If I don't hand over the son, they'll turn this place into a sea of fire. Meanwhile, Hassan clenched his jaw, his mouth trembling violently, and he almost shouted powerfully, I will never hand over my son. Hearing this, Garrick strangely remained calm. You won't regret that decision, Hassan. Once again affirming, of course not. The man responded loudly, then we have no other choice. Immediately after, Garrick gestured a command, destroy everything until that bastard Damien shows up. The unified shout thundered like a storm. Hassan shouted hoarsely with rage, you bastard, stop right now! A familiar voice suddenly rang out from behind. Have you bugs lost your minds? The group immediately turned around, and there Mien was slowly approaching. Garrick spun around. Since when did he appear? Lavender asked irritably, who the hell are you? A chill suddenly went through him. What the hell is this? Lavender tried hard to resist. I can't move. He almost ignored it, rushing to is Cha-Cha okay? He hesitated briefly. Still fine, but Victor? When he glanced at the boy, Damien's face gradually changed color, and he muttered under his breath, You've probably heard I'm pretty lucky. Damien angrily questioned, if Victor hadn't been born with a strong body, he would have died from that beating. If that were the case, I probably would have beaten the three of you to death right here. Obi responded angrily. What? Bastard, Garrick interrupted. So you are Damien. They say you're gutsy enough to defy the Marquis. Turns out he's just a crazy guy. Or do you think you're cool for defeating a noble with that dirty trick? Hearing this, Damien instinctively repeated, dirty trick. Meanwhile, the guy shouted orders loudly. What are you standing there for? Break his legs and make him kneel before me. The group charged forward simultaneously. On this side, Damien lowered his head to the ground. Screw it! He raised his hand, gripping Lavender's sword tightly. Good. Damien decisively tightened his grip. He was about to test the mana he had just gathered from the fierce breath power technique. In an instant, he swung a strong fist into the center of Lavender's chest. It's convenient when a few perfect targets come right to your doorstep. Witnessing the scene, Obi unconsciously felt fear. Lavender blinked once Damien's foot appeared before him, and immediately the OP man was kicked far away. I'll use it to my heart's content. Garrick couldn't help but feel amazed at the same time Victor woke up from his coma, muttering unconsciously, "Young Master Damien." Slightly turning, Victor asked, "Are you okay?" Suddenly, he reached out his hand, his arm trembling painfully. Victor raised a straight thumb while smiling faintly at Victor's unexpected gesture. Damien looked a bit bewildered, unconsciously chuckling. "Honestly, you're really interesting." Garrick slowly approached Damien, his steps cautious, carefully probing. "You fell into Lord Agui's cheap trap again, huh?" Speaking of which, Garrick turned to his henchman. "But I still don't understand how a scoundrel like you has skills like that." He lightly touched the sword hilt, eyes fixed on the man. "You don't need to know." Hearing this, Garrick frowned deeply, trying to probe him, then it hit him like a lightning strike. Garrick implied, "Now I get it, all the pieces fit together." Damien was stunned and confused. "What?" The man suddenly pointed directly at him, firmly stating, "You're not Dean Harrison." Faced with the question, Harrison looked at him in confusion. Victor, who had just been unconscious, was now fully awake, his face almost twisted. "What the hell are you talking about?" Before Damien could finish, Garrick suddenly yelled, "Don't lie to me!" He screamed like a madman. "Do you think I don't recognize this as a trap set by those battlefield hounds to obstruct the prosperity of the Leon Bloom family?" Garrick ignored the expression on Damien's face and continued, "You're not the real Damien Harrison. You're definitely a fake someone hired to defeat Lord Agui and tarnish the reputation of the Leon Bloom family." Saying this, he swung his arm back and clenched the sword hilt. "Those scoundrels dare to play tricks on Leon Bloom." Damien could only sigh helplessly. "This guy is even dumber than I thought." On the other side, Garrick tightened his grip on his weapon, eyes fixed on Damien, but strangely his fingers twitched slightly, revealing hesitation. "Damn it, what should I do now?" "For now, just pretend to be knocked out." Behind Hassan suddenly called his name Damien. Victor silently prayed, "Please win." At the same time, Garrick maintained his stance and Damien coldly stared at him. At that moment, Garrick's eyes blazed. He seemed skillful, but his luck had run out. His foot pressed down hard, just half a step enough for him to enter Damien's striking range. He tried to assess the situation step by step, calculating within sight. Garrick yanked the sword from its sheath. "I'll split him in two." His eyes were fiery red like a wild beast's, fixed on his opponent, breathing heavily. Garrick channeled all his strength into the blazing sword, stamping his foot on the ground. "Come out in pairs," Damien whispered in a drawn-out tone, half mocking, half excited. Sure enough, it's Leon Bloom. This time they sent an official knight. He decisively swung his sword, and Garrick slid backward, seemingly unable to believe his eyes. No way he blocked my strike. Garrick glared angrily and shouted, "Just lucky, then try to block this one too." As he spoke, he frantically swung his sword into the air. Damien calmly dodged each strike, not forgetting to taunt, "You're too slow now." Facing the insult, Garrick gradually lost his mind. Before he could react, Damien suddenly charged, "My turn!" In an instant, blood spurted from Garrick's ears and eyes while Damien's sword struck hard against his armor. Garrick gritted his teeth in pain. "I couldn't see his attack." At that moment, Damien suddenly kicked him strongly, striking Garrick's head with a powerful blow. He only saw Garrick's body roll on the ground without stopping. After a while, Garrick lay writhing on the ground, his body trembling continuously. Damien opened his eyes slightly, almost shouting, "This move is for Victor!" At the same time, Garrick struggled to get up. "You!" Garrick pointed his sword straight at Damien and lunged. "Bastard!" Damien's face remained calm. Garrick unleashed his ultimate move, Lion Speed Might Sword, while Damien lightly swung his sword forward. "Too noisy!" Damien's sword immediately approached Garrick, and he mocked, "That's all you've got." In an instant, Garrick's sword began to crack, and the weapon in his hand shattered into hundreds of pieces. At some point, Damien's sword had sliced across Garrick's arm. He suddenly lunged forward, and Garrick's arm was severed instantly. Garrick let out a sharp scream and collapsed to the ground. Witnessing this, Hassan couldn't hide his astonishment. Victor silently cheered from behind, a slight smile curling his lips. He won. At that moment, Garrick's groans reached Damien's ears, constantly complaining, "Damn it hurts so much I have to stop the bleeding immediately." Damien pointed his sword at Garrick, who begged repeatedly, "I don't know who you are, but you won. Please spare me, I beg you." Damien coldly reprimanded, "I am Damien Hassan, you fool." He looked coldly at Garrick. "You should have begged for your life earlier. Don't you think it's a bit late now?" He slid his sword closer to Garrick. You messed with my family, made my ugly servant look even worse, and now you want me to spare you. Seeing that he begged loudly, I'm sorry, I apologize for what happened earlier. Damien interrupted. Are you still a coward? Sneering. You still don't know who you're supposed to apologize to. Hearing this, Garrick couldn't help but feel a bit confused. Immediately, Victor grabbed a baseball bat and stepped forward. Hassan held a sword lightly behind. After just a few moments, they were all beaten badly and bruised. However, Victor didn't seem satisfied. Young master, I'm still not angry enough. Can I hit him a few more times? Fortunately, Damien still had some mercy and stopped him. Enough if you hit him more, he might die. Knowing they were scared, he still teased, what if we chop off some limbs? Garrick, cornered, could only say, actually, that doesn't sound too bad. Luckily, Hassan stopped Damien before things got worse. Damien, that's enough. Only then did he beg, for my reckless actions, Sir Hassan, I was wrong. I apologize for being disrespectful to you. Yet Hassan put on a threatening face. Garrick, do you think one apology is enough to make up for it? What if my son wasn't this strong? Hassan, looking at him in his pitiful state, got angrier and shouted, my territory has been destroyed. No one knows what that boy had to endure when dragged away by the Marquis family. Knowing he was guilty, he kept bowing and begging, I beg you, please spare my life. Seeing this, Hassan fell silent. His lips pressed tightly together, showing determination. After a moment, he turned to the family crest for Damien. He looked at Garrick and whispered, I don't really intend to kill them. If I killed them here, my relationship with the Leon Bloom family would be completely ruined. His eyes revealed calculation. If I were alone, I wouldn't hesitate to confront the Marquis family. But I can't do that while I still have family. These thoughts wandered through Damien's mind, making it hard to focus. However, if we let them go so easily, they will surely retaliate soon. What should we do? Just then, a call came from afar. Damien. Ednis ran in from the door, anxiously asking, what happened? Seeing her, he stiffened. Wait. His face seemed to carve the word helpful, making Damien think maybe she could help this time. After hearing the story, she finally understood, so that's it. Ennis thought for a moment, then said, if you're worried about that, maybe I can help. Hearing this, he asked, do you have an idea? With her genius mind, Ennis immediately came up with a new plan. Thanks to the Hassan family, this is the first time we've been able to eliminate one of Yulin's leaders. Damien, after being explained to, suddenly understood. Then we can designate the Hassan family as an allied family. Meanwhile, Hassan looked at Victor and understood. If that happens, my family can escape this crisis. You seem to get it too. Being allies with them is good. Thinking of the benefits, Damien obediently pleaded like a puppy to Agnes. If it's not too sudden, could you accept this proposal? Luckily, she agreed, of course. If you've achieved your goal, you must take the right steps as you intended. With the same person, protected by the sanctuary. But because of the beautiful woman in front of him, Damien had to say, sorry. Hassan looked on quietly, judging his son. That boy just used his charm on her, didn't he? But Edna said, it's okay. At that moment, he suddenly turned to Gary and shouted, hey, you guys saw that right, Damien? After a while of threats, he gave them a way out. Quickly inform the Leon Bloom family. Tell them the Hassan family is now under the sanctuary's protection. His voice grew louder at the end to warn, if they dare use force again. As if threatening, Damien's eyes flashed with killing intent, they will face the sanctuary's wrath. If you understand, then get lost. Freed, they ran off as fast as they could. Thanks, Victor. Standing there, furious. You guys got lucky bastards. Witnessing this, he quietly turned and timidly said, see, they ran off like tail-cut dogs. Now we can finally breathe a little, right? But a voice replied, not necessarily. Hassan, with rich experience, seemed to have new plans. Now we have to think about the next step. We need to organize a family meeting. Those words surprised Victor. A moment later, they were in an empty room. All right. He sat proudly in the middle of the room and declared, let's start the meeting. Everyone in the room listened attentively. The topic, as everyone knew, was about dealing with the feud with the Leon Bloom family. Abin Hassan suddenly interrupted him. Father, didn't the sanctuary just protect us? So why should we still care about this grudge? Hassan just quietly answered the question, Abin, that's because we can't expect the sanctuary to intervene fully. But that answer didn't seem enough for him, so Abin Hassan exclaimed, what? Yet he gently said, Louis is right. His face then fell into deep thought. The sanctuary does not intervene too deeply in the affairs of the nobility. Moreover, Leon Bloom's power is not only in his military force. It seemed his mind recalled some things. If they wanted, they could crush minor nobles like us by any means. Hassan's voice steadily echoed in the quiet room. The most practical option is to pay to silence them or seek protection from a higher-ranking noble. In fact, joining under the banner of another powerful family might be the best opportunity. Suddenly, Agnes stood up and stepped to the center of the room. There is another way. As she spoke, she demonstrated, Damien Hassan can become a holy knight. He was stunned by that. He didn't expect her to bring that up right now. However, Damien strongly opposed, I don't want to. Hassan thought for a moment, then said, if Damien doesn't want it, then disregard that option. He heard that with no reaction. Understood. At that moment, Abin Hassan slammed the table and stood up, shouting, Father! He saw that reaction and felt a bit awkward. What's wrong with you? Hearing that, he annoyedly questioned, why do you accept that so easily? If all he needs to do is become a holy knight, then everything would be over right away. Abin Hassan showed a determined expression. Just tell him to accept it. He was annoyed from start to finish. But those words sounded a bit harsh to Damien. This kid acted like this had nothing to do with him. Abin Hassan didn't see the reaction he wanted on his face and grew more frustrated. What's that look, come to think of it all? This started because of him. It's all his fault. Fortunately, Hassan finally spoke up to stop Abin. He spoke in a tone full of menace. We have guests. Sit down. When Father spoke gently and being criticized, he finally gave in. Hassan looked around for a bit as if understanding. Abin was right. Damien started the conflict with Leon Bloom, but you can't blame the kid. Then he turned to the other family members. Leon Bloom's second son had bad intentions toward Louis. Even if Damien didn't act, do you think that guy would just let her go easily? The more Hassan spoke, the more he trembled helplessly. Actually, Damien protected Louis from the plot of the Marquise's second son, or else this powerless father here would have been. Seeing that reaction, Damien unconsciously called out, Brother! Louis couldn't hold back tears and called to Father. After being moved, the father stood up. So Damien, you understand, he immediately replied, Yes, Father. After all, he was able to express his deep thoughts. You did well today. His words grew more meaningful. You stood up to defend the family's honor and responded appropriately. He was equally moved hearing that. He didn't expect him to feel that way. Damien bowed his head to the table and said, That's just what I had to do. Hassan trusted him completely and confidently declared, Don't worry from now on, let Father handle this. But he was a bit surprised. But Father understood his feelings and comforted him. Let Father have the chance to act like a proper dad. At least this time. Just then a voice sounded again. Sir Hazel, sorry to interrupt. Hazel turned and asked, What is it? The butler quickly said, Someone from the Go Pixie family has arrived. Hearing that name, he was stunned and confused. The Duke's Go Pixie, what do they want with us? The butler was embarrassed and stammered, His words hit Hassan like a dagger. Young Master Damien has borrowed money using the family's wheat fields as collateral. The debt is overdue now. Damien suddenly startled, remembering, Damn, don't tell me they've already sold it. Right now, father and son only exchange murderous glares. In just 3 seconds, he turned into a free fire demon, grabbing him by the collar and shouting, Damien! The huge house echoed only with the roar of a wild beast. That damn kid. The polite man took off his Olin hat, nodded slightly in greeting. Damien, hello, sir. He watched the man warily. I vaguely remember this guy Olin. Smiling, he said, Long time no see, I'm here today because it's the repayment day as agreed. His voice was smooth, like honey in the ear, his eyes curved with sincerity. Wouldn't it be better if you used your family's land as collateral? That way we can lend you more money. It's just a formality, nothing to worry about. How could a lowly person like me dare to take land from a noble like you? At that moment, he was stunned to realize that with all the sweet words, this was the man who had persuaded him. He kept cursing himself, damn my past self. Why did I give the land documents away back then? Damien forced a smile. How much do I still owe? Olin slowly held up 3 fingers, a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. You borrowed 200 gold, so with interest it totals 300 gold. His throat tightened, his head spinning. What? The man confidently spoke, That's the exact amount. Would you like to review the contract? Mien was almost crushed. It had been so long he barely remembered why he borrowed money, but clearly his family didn't have that much. If this continued, Damien's family would fall into ruin. Begging for every penny, the child called him a beggar. Mom dragged me away, fearing we'd be kicked out. All he had left was despair. At the same time, Olin cleared his throat softly. You know, if you don't pay today, the land you used as collateral will become Dust and Cat's property. Damien desperately objected. You said the collateral was just a formality. The man's voice slowly hammered each word like a blow to the heart. Of course I said that. But what can be done now? Duke Gopixi has ordered the collection of all debts regardless if they're from nobles or commoners. Olin dropped the threat. So if you understand, please bring the money or... He suddenly stopped, squinting at Damien. You don't have it. He stood frozen, his body slack, empty eyes. I haven't prepared the money to repay the debt. Hearing Damien's answer, Olin instinctively tilted his head. Huh? His tone abruptly changed, a malicious smile curling at the corner of his lips. Oh, really? Then Olin casually leaned back in his chair, sighing in boredom. Then you shouldn't have borrowed money in the first place. At the same time, Olin snapped his fingers as if provoking, hey. He softly signaled his men. I guess I'll have to collect the money my own way. Olin didn't forget to watch him. I knew from the start he wouldn't be able to pay. Honestly, I do like real money, but I like this moment more. In that moment, he couldn't help feeling excited to see those arrogant nobles kneel before him. Thinking of this, Olin turned to look at Damien. So how will young Master Hassan's face look now? He involuntarily stuck out his tongue. Just imagining it is thrilling. On the other side, Hassan sighed again and again, pacing back and forth in the room. Seeing this, Marilda spoke gently to him. Please just sit down and rest. You've been pacing so much you'll wear out the floor. Louis turned to remind Aben, you calm down too. Hearing this, he was almost overwhelmed with emotion and shouted, My love, how can I sit still at a time like this? Our family could be destroyed, Aben added with confusion. Exactly how can we sit still when the future of our whole family is in danger? In contrast, she calmly sipped her tea. Damien said he would handle it, so let's trust the boy and just wait. She spoke in support. That's right, Damien has never disappointed us whenever the boy stood upright. Hassan's face immediately darkened. It's only because the boy's swordsmanship is excellent, he emphasized each word. Combat skill and negotiation are two completely different things. In an instant, Damien easily knocked down his opponent. Witnessing that scene, the creditor Olin couldn't help but feel horrified. He frowned, looking at the body in his hand. Dad's about to yell at me again, he just fixed that wall the other day. The other man lunged at the kid, only to see Damien's arm move twistedly through the air. He immediately grabbed the man's neck tightly and lifted him up high. Damien almost shouted, You drew your sword against a noble. Then he gently looked at Olin. So this counts as self-defense, right? Seeing Damien's terrifying expression, the man involuntarily shuddered. He took slow steps closer to Olin. After a moment, Damien stood firmly in front of him. He gently reminded, Relax, Olin. Obediently nodded, Yes, Sir Damien. Then spoke seriously, Listen, I can't pay that amount right now. The man shook his head repeatedly. It's okay, it's okay. Suddenly, he changed his tone. Then, Damien leaned in close to Olin and smiled brightly. Can I pay you in another way? Noticing his hand tightening, the man immediately agreed, yes. The next day was brilliantly sunny, signaling a good day ahead. From outside, Aben suddenly complained, Father, I am heartbroken. Hassan turned over suspiciously. What's wrong? What happened? He bluntly revealed Damien was defeated by violence for justice. At the same time, Marilda carefully reminded, Remember to eat well. Louis beside her added, Damien wishes you a safe trip. He quickly replied, Yes, don't worry, I will come back. Suddenly, Aben collapsed to the ground and shouted, Why? Why is it like this? Damn those words! He sighed helplessly. Let's cheer for my brother on this trip. Hassan glanced at Damien, reluctantly agreed, but still worried whether the boy's plan would work. Ednis suddenly appeared. It's a pity, Damien. I didn't expect us to part ways so soon. He turned unexpectedly to Ednis. Damien quickly stepped closer. Thank you for your help. Ednis smiled modestly. Of course I only did what I had to. Then she suddenly blushed. By the way, our investigation is almost done, so we'll return tomorrow. Ednis clasped her hands and prayed, wishing Damien a smooth journey. He politely bowed in thanks. At that moment, she gave him a puppy-eyed look. If you change your mind later, Damien immediately interrupted. No, right away. He approached Victor. Now that the farewell is over, let's go. He nodded slightly. Yes, I finished packing. The carriage immediately opened. As he entered, Damien couldn't help but exclaim, This carriage is spacious, really comfortable. Olin spoke up. "Hello?" The man smiled awkwardly, sweat dotting his face. "During this trip, I'll do my best to ensure you have no inconvenience." Hearing this, Damien smiled slightly. "Good attitude with that spirit. Have lobster for lunch today." Then Damien turned to Victor. Victor said, "It's time." Smiling, Damien replied, "Yes, young master." Victor stuck his head out. "Let's go, family estate." The horse raised its head high. It let out a majestic neigh. Damien looked out the window, smiling gently. "All right, let's depart," he shouted excitedly, "to the Go Pixie family." Upon arrival, Victor looked up with wide, amazed eyes. He marveled, "This really is the mansion of one of the richest families in the kingdom. You dazzled by the Go Pixie estate." Damien didn't forget to express gratitude. "Thanks to you, this trip went so smoothly. If everything goes well, I won't forget your help." Olin put on a submissive expression, nodding repeatedly. Yes, I've already informed the Duke. You can just go in." He turned his back, his face showing displeasure. "That bastard makes me work harder than a slave." Thinking this, Olin silently cursed Damien. "I hope nothing goes well so he dies in there." Then he quickly backtracked with a smile. "I hope everything goes smoothly." Damien replied briefly, "Thank you." He turned and entered, his voice sharp as a knife. "I will return later." Victor responded enthusiastically, "Yes, young master." Inside, a deep but authoritative voice called out, "Damien Hassan." Adam looked at him sternly. "The infamous troublemaker from the Hassan family." Damien smiled lightly, bowing respectfully, "Honored to be recognized by you." He silently cursed, "What a bunch of the same kind." Hearing this, Adam's voice lowered and chilled. "So what brings you here?" "The reason," he honestly admitted, "actually, I borrowed money from the financial institution your family manages. The repayment deadline has arrived." He chuckled softly, his tone sarcastic. "I see, so you're my client now." Then Damien confidently declared, "Forgive me, but I don't have money now, so I want to repay in another way." Adam looked confused and confirmed again, "Yes." Instead of money now, Damien confidently stated, "I want to defeat the Leon Bloom family to pay off the debt." Hearing this, Adam couldn't help but laugh. "You kid must have heard the news." Gaon beside him replied, "Looks like it." Damien stared at Adam. "Everyone in the Apple Kingdom knows this. Recently, at the border between the Leon Bloom and Go Pixie families, a gold mine was discovered. The two families, who already dislike each other, are now holding a duel between lower-level knights to compete for exclusive mining rights. He already knew the outcome. The result was a big win for Leon Bloom. They used the gold to quickly expand their influence. Meanwhile, Go Pixie's influence visibly declined. Back to reality. Damien smirked proudly. "In short, if I help the family win, I won't just be able to pay off the debt, but also help contain Leon Bloom." Adam chuckled, his tone half mocking, half amused, narrowing his eyes as he studied him. "You're really ambitious. I heard you once defeated the second son of the Leon Bloom family. You even destroyed the largest organization in landwork." Damien shrugged his lips, curving into a confident smile. "The rumor is somewhat true." His eyes lit up with interest. "Is that so? Sounds intriguing. I'm looking for a knight to join the duel." He openly showed a modest yet confident demeanor. "When it comes to boasting, no one suits better than me. Who else but me can fight the eldest son of the Leon Bloom family?" Adam raised his brow slightly, his voice low. "Are you sure you can beat him? Everyone knows he's a genius." Damien nodded gently, his smile steady as carved stone. "His skills are formidable, but I also—" suddenly interrupted. "Sir, don't believe his words." He continued with a wary look. "Those rumors are often exaggerated." Adam nodded slowly. "What you say makes sense." Urs turned to look at him with disdain. "Besides, Miss Chelsea will bring you the perfect candidate." Others spoke up at the same time. "Right, Chelsea left a month ago to find a knight strong enough to face Michael Leon Bloom." Another dissatisfied voice cut in. "She's probably coming back soon." The person beside replied, "Yes, she always passes your tests perfectly, so this time she'll definitely bring back an outstanding person." After the persuasive words, he looked around at the crowd. "You all have good points." A flash of anger crossed his mind. "These annoying ugly fools have ruined my plan." Then Adam gave a thin smile, leaning forward. "My people think so, but what do you think I should do?" He quickly realized that he was testing his reaction. "Then I'll show you." Damien's voice rose, shaking the whole room. "You're all mistaken." The man looked angry. "What did you say?" He stood still like a statue, his gaze steel-hard. "If you want to win the fight, you must choose me. No one Chelsea brings back can compare to me." Urs clenched his teeth slightly. That guy's really arrogant. saying that when you don't even know who she's bringing back. Damien smiled coldly, his eyes sparkling with proud confidence. If you need proof, I'll block your strongest move. He was so angry his veins bulged on his face. What? Without hesitation, he challenged bluntly, just your strongest move is enough. If I block it, that proves my strength. Duke glared fiercely, veins bulging. This bastard dares to underestimate me. He's just a low-level guy. He spoke with bitterness, sir. Please allow me to teach this brat a lesson. Adam glanced over, intrigued. He grinned with amusement. Fine, you have my permission. Soon after Ernest and Damien appeared in the arena, Victor shouted hurriedly, Young master, you came here to persuade the Duke, didn't you? He didn't bother turning around, gently squeezing his shoulder. This is just an unexpected situation. Just stand there. He looked terrified toward the distance where Ernest was waiting. I think you're the one in danger, Adam reminded Began Knight Howard. He immediately tightened his grip on his weapon. Yes, sir. Urson roared powerfully. If you kneel and beg me, I will spare Damien. Yawning tiredly, I'm exhausted. Hurry up and fight. He had already been driven mad by him. This brat, you're asking for death. Ursus's palm suddenly radiated energy, and he slammed his staff into the ground. Weren't you the one asking for the strongest move? He swallowed hard. Could it be I really angered him? Ursus roared wildly. I'll punch a hole in your ugly face. Seeing him rush madly, Damien couldn't help but sigh. That's what you expect from a mid-level knight. But just knowing where he intends to strike isn't hard to. As the tip of the sword lunged forward, he immediately raised the sword on the other side. The spear suddenly sped up, charging straight to pierce the center of his chest. Damien panicked, his body jerking back. The sword in Damien's hand had cracked without him noticing. Ursus's lips twitched into a smirk, sneering, Fool, you just walked into my trap. Blood gushed quickly from Damien's chest. Seeing that Victor shouted in panic, Young master, Adam's group was just as confused.